Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Bootu Boys. I just get fired up when I hear these terrible, terrible songs. I'm joined by Spencer Hendricks and Brian Vaughn, but first, I want to reveal that this is, in fact, the hit song Dancy Dancy by Biniam. Biniam? He's a character we don't see in this episode, but a character.
I vote that we just make that the show for every episode that we introduce from now on.
I mean, it's
the new
so good.
The new Bootu Boys theme song.
You heard it here first, folks. We've partnered with Biniam. They call him Benny. And we're going to be playing Dancy Dancy.
Just looking for a way to drive away the few listeners we have.
Exactly. And that voice you're hearing is the sultry, high-pitched tones of Brian
Those
Vaughn.
seem conflicting. And yeah, hi, I'm Brian. I'm another one of the ways we're trying to drive away the few listeners we have.
You're a trailblazer. You're the first sultry, high-pitched voice person. Somewhere in the middle, we have Spencer Hendricks. How are you?
Well, I don't know how to feel about that. Is that a compliment? I'm somewhere in the middle.
Take it how you'd like.
I was handsome earlier. Now I'm somewhere in the middle.
See? That's how it goes here at the Bootu Boys. We are covering, of course, 90 Day Fiancé yet again. And this time we are covering the Happily Ever After episode, Season 5, Episode 4, She's a Wolf.
Which actually is 90 days long.
It pretty much is. Now, let me reveal that when I picked this show and decided we're going to cover it, I told my girlfriend Katie, who watches the show religiously, pick a couple episodes for me. What I did not ask her to do is pick a couple of reasonably long episodes for me, because she picked one that's an hour and a half, this freaking episode. And as I told Spencer before we started recording, sometimes she'll be watching this, I'll sit down, and I'll be like, okay, I'll wait till the episode's over, and then maybe we can watch something else, or I can play a game or whatever. I look up 4 hours later, and it's the same damn episode. This show just does that. It's just reality TV, so if they have crap that they filmed to put out, they put it out.
Oh, this is just like prog TV, only if it was like 2 chords the whole time?
When you think about it, the sheer volume, which I have not actually faced this reality directly, the sheer volume of shows that they pump out like this is actually scary. It's scary that there are so many shows like this and it just pollutes the universe.
And they're so cheap to make that there will be no end, as successful as they are, there's no end in sight.
That's the real issue, is how popular they are. And I am scared of how many of them there are, how many you could watch like this.
It's if you get one that the public latches on to, the profit margin is just nuts. It's like making Blair Witch Project or something, because you're using, you don't have to really go nuts on it. And if you get a big enough audience, I mean, it gets rabid. As we talked about in the last episode, their entire Reddit community is dedicated to this show, and I'm sure it gets very intense.
And it is very much, as you guys said, cheap to produce in that you pay for the camera, you pay for the crew to travel, hotels, that's it. There's no set. They barely pay the people. The people we're going to discuss, they only make like $1,000 an episode or something, which in TV terms is not much money.
Sure, they're probably just going more off the notoriety, I'm guessing. Like they think they'll launch a career out of it or something.
I'll tell you the career they launch out of it. It's an OnlyFans career.
Sure.
Most of them do that.
Scorsese's not knocking the door down.
Not yet.
Not yet. Soon. They'll be like, listen, Asuelu, we love your portrayal of stupid Samoan boy. So come be in Jurassic Park 7.
And then he tells the woman speaking to him to leave and send a man in her place.
Now, isn't OnlyFans making an effort to be less sexual? Didn't they get bought by a company or something that told them
No, they revealed they were going to remove all adult content from the site and strictly be like a TikTok thing.
So OnlyFans did that on their own end. I was thinking maybe a company from the outside took over and said, okay, no more sex.
Yeah, they were essentially trying to build a business off sex workers and then turn it into something else entirely now that they were made.
And they were trying to attract new sponsors is what they were doing.
Okay, that might have been where I was thinking they got bought.
So that's the money kind of aspect of it. Now, they immediately reneged on that because there was such an uproar and like, who's going to go to OnlyFans?
Yeah, it turns out there's only one reason to go there.
And I'll have plenty to say about OnlyFans.
Is that to watch people smash bugs with their sexy feet?
In the case of Courtney, absolutely.
And do coin tricks, like I said before, guys.
No, that I probably would
I'll
watch.
be right back.
That'd be impressive.
Give me like 8 minutes.
Do you need your wallet for this one? 8 minutes, huh? All right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's more than I would have guessed, but sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, there's a lot of mind's eye stuff that has to happen first.
All right. So we've got a fuck ton to cover because this episode is so goddamn long. So let's get into the couples overview here. Just like last episode, I'm going to tell you about the new couples that have been introduced, and one old one in this case. Angela and Michael
meant to be
first. meant to be thrown into a crater in the case of Angela. She is an absolute monster, and she is engaged to Michael. He's a bubbly Nigerian man who will clearly do whatever it takes to get to the United States. And I do mean whatever it takes, considering what he puts up with Angela.
And what he puts what in, presumably.
She is absolutely up there as far as the Mount Rushmore of shitty people who get, quote, famous from this show. And she has a pretty sordid past, too. The first thing I'll point out is that her and her trailer trash family have been trying in vain to become reality TV famous for a long, long time, and they've actually been on the Maury Show.
Oh.
Some of those paternity test episodes, her and her daughter Scotty have been on there, which Scotty isn't mentioned in this episode. Skyla is mentioned in this episode.
That's the one that she wants to take with her to be the witness.
And there's a reason why Scotty is not mentioned in this episode. That is because she was arrested and convicted of multiple counts of child molestation.
What?
God.
Yep, she spent time in prison. Angela herself, I believe, was charged with being an accessory to the crimes.
Wow.
Not confident on that, but there's clearly something a little extra going on here.
Huh.
There was a lot of uproar a few years back because Scotty has since done her time, which was only like a year and a half, and then she was released
Must have
under
been a
house
mild
arrest.
case of child molestation.
Just a little touch of it.
Yeah. She didn't do anything serious like owe a company $100 or something.
Or buy weed.
Yeah.
Scotty's been released. She has been allowed to be around kids, certainly her
good.
own. And there's like a video of an interview with Angela where Scotty's in the background with children. So
Awesome.
this caused a big uproar.
And we know Angela can because later she's revealed to have a troop of like maybe 87 children.
I was
Yes.
worried she was going to eat every one of those kids.
Hansel and Gretel style. Or maybe she doesn't even cook them. She just devours them.
No, that's what I'd just pick them up and shove them in.
Next up, we have Colt and Jess and Larissa and Vanessa. Colt is our American here, and he was first featured on this show with his then fiancée Larissa, who's a Brazilian who since
I want
married
to know a
him.
little more about Larissa.
No, you don't.
I just got the backstory there, so I'm not sure what's going on with that.
Well, she came over to the States after they got married. Eventually, they get divorced. Colt is now dating a different Brazilian woman, Jess,
He has a type.
and also clearly fucking around on the side with her other friend, Vanessa, who appears later in the show. So Colt is hypersexual or something along those lines. He has a very high sex drive.
I'm not sure you know that by looking at him.
No, not at all. Despite looking like what he does, he is not afraid to talk about sex. He's
And have
more gross than evil. I wouldn't say he's quite villainous like some people, but he's evil. Or he's gross.
Yeah, so Colt, he falls into a category of the characters on this show where I don't think he is the most evil person present. I fucking hate this guy. I can't stand him. It's something to do with his
Smug attitude.
he's very, very smug and overly confident despite being like hyper reliant on his gremlin
his
mother.
mother.
And then also, I mean, I'm not going to descend into body shame.
It's a
God.
weird shape. It's not even
It's-
it's not even so much that the weight category. It's just he's built very.
He's
oddly.
an oddly shaped guy, and there's just something about the way he carries himself that screams like, I don't believe life has consequences.
He feels like he's gotten away with so much
Yeah.
already and plenty more.
And his
actually.
name's Colt. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, fuck that.
Or according to Larissa, Colty, because
Ugh.
her language thing of whenever she can't think of what to say or her brain's catching up to her mouth, she goes E. I don't know if that's a Portuguese thing, but every name is blank E.
He's
so
in her
Colty.
phone as that, too, I
Yes.
noticed.
Yeah, it's a whole internet
Colty.
thing now, too. So moving on to the next one, we'll touch more on Colt. Unfortunately, we'll touch
A
right
lot
at
of
him.
a lot of people touch on Colt, I guess.
Next up, we have Asuelu and Kalani. Kalani is the Mormon daughter of a Samoan father and a white mother who live in Mormon, Utah. Kalani met Asuelu, her now husband, when she went on vacation in Samoa, and he was working at the resort they were staying at. The two banged with the nearly 30-year-old woman, losing her virginity to him. They make a point to say that.
Wow.
And she immediately got pregnant,
And he's a good bit younger.
quite a bit younger. Now, they have since had another child together, and they now reside in Utah. And he is quite possibly the dumbest human being to appear on any television
and so
show.
angry.
Mhm.
He's angry and dumb.
And that says a lot, by the way.
Asuelu seems like a 12-year-old boy put into a man's body.
Oh, he's so
Mhm.
pouty, so petty the whole time.
And his dopey eyes, like they're crossed at any given moment. I do not like Asuelu. Next up, we have Paul and Karine. We talked on them last week. Paul's, of course, from Kentucky. He met Karine, a Brazilian girl, on a dating site. He traveled to Brazil to meet her, and the two got engaged. We saw a little bit of that in the last episode. They have since made their way back to the U.S.
And they're just now getting there, too.
Yes.
I was so honored to get to see Paul and Karine's debut in America.
They have one child at this point of this episode, and they are beginning to build their lives together in the U.S. And my final note on this couple, to introduce them as we get into the show, is that Karine hates Paul.
Yes, which we all do.
Pretty evident.
What's this kid's name? Do we know?
Pierre. It's not Pierre, it's Pierre.
Okay.
Or something real stupid like that. I know it's not Pierre.
Not Colty.
But it's spelled that way. Maybe that's who they took the influence from. Who knows? I would name him...
Well, more Brazilian people, it could be a Brazilian trend.
That's
Throw
their
that
thing.
E on there, yeah, like you said.
And I would name their baby Doesn't Have a Chance in Life.
Yeah, fucked the person.
Lastly, we have Libby and Andre, as she likes to say. Elizabeth, who's aka Libby, she's a swamp chicken from Florida. She met Andre, a Moldovan man, when he was working as a bouncer in Dublin, Ireland, and she was vacationing. The two eventually got married and moved to the U.S., though in this episode we find out they're traveling to his native Moldova to have a second Romanian-style wedding with his family attending. And that's it. That's our couples today. All new ones with the exception of Paul and Karine.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, I will tell you guys when we get to the end of the episode, I will ask you who is the villain to you of this episode. So be thinking of that as we go along.
And we foreshadowed this a bit at the end of our last episode about 90 Day Fiancé, but if you thought the characters we discussed were reprehensible last time around, they were. But these are worse.
Just you wait.
There were parts of it where I actually thought Andre and Libby seemed somewhat normal compared to the others, but it starts to show. You see the cracks a little bit.
I
especially
agree.
towards the
I
end.
agree. At the beginning, there were those moments where I was like, maybe.
At the end, something's going on.
Yeah, there were also moments when I questioned what it is to be.
That'll do it for the introduction scene. So let's get into the episode synopsis. Do you guys remember how shitty those people were last week?
Uh-huh.
Let's get into how shitty these people are this week.
Uh-huh.
Again, I'm not going to cover the previously on Lost segments at the beginning, which is a good thing because they last about 15 minutes. And of course, this is an hour and a half long, so this feature-length movie full of shitty people could probably use a bit of trimming. Anyway, our first couple is quite possibly the worst of them all, debatable. Michael, the 31-year-old from Nigeria, and Angela, the attention-seeking cave troll from the U.S. Michael is getting dressed and wearing his gold Angela necklace, which I didn't notice before. I can't believe he actually has
Pretty
that.
Cool. I wish it was for a different Angela.
Michael is explaining
Lansbury, maybe.
Well, she was in, what was that show?
Murder, She Wrote.
What a great show. We'll cover it soon. Michael's explaining how he met Angela online, and we see some lovely photos of the two of them smiling and doing couple things. And Michael reveals the things he likes most about Angela, which are, of course, that they laugh together, that she's very strong. And by the way, I don't mean mentally strong. I mean she could pick him up and tear him in half.
Yeah, she can
She's physically
deadlift like
strong.
400 pounds.
He likes her smile. And, of course, her boobs.
And he thinks he's pretty funny when he says it, too. I struggled to keep the food I was eating down.
Well, if there's one thing Michael really does enjoy, it's enormous stretch mark covered in cigarette stained breasts.
Ugh. Yeah, they look just absolutely bizarre next to each other, too. It's like, I don't know what I'm seeing there.
And I think I had this earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and say it now. I traditionally do not like to make fun of physical appearances because it's just a shitty thing to do.
Sure.
When you're monstrous, vile creatures, I'm going to use every weapon in my disposal to be mean to them. So
Yeah.
I will talk about some physical traits today.
Do you think she got this job because of her previous work as a kind of an NPC in Crazy Taxi?
One, that when you run her over, she gives you like less money than you would get
She,
from anyone else.
Flips you off from underneath the cab.
I tend to agree with you very much so. Like in most cases, there's no need to stoop to that. And I don't even really mean to stoop. I just think she looks like an ogre. I just like there's not like it's not any, I wouldn't say it insulting. I would just be like, yeah, that person looks more like an ogre.
It's just an observation.
I don't think it's a person.
Her actions also resemble how a wet, half-smoked cigar might smell.
So astute. I couldn't have put it better myself.
She's just Here's the thing. We've discussed how Angela's kind of not attractive. Another word would be hideous.
And she eats all those little kids.
And as sometimes people are like, well, it's not the outside, it's the inside that counts.
Oh, it's worse.
I believe the inside is that, but with maggots on it.
Do you remember Fern Gully?
Yeah,
that
of
cartoon
course.
movie and the evil goo that took over the forest? That's Angela personified, the evil goo.
how climate change is happening and eventually the Earth will just explode into the sun?
Mm-hmm.
Angela.
All right, well, Michael reveals to the audience and to his mother that Angela is coming to Nigeria and that he hopes to marry her after a couple of weeks. You see, his dream is to live in America with his woman. And by woman, I want to be very clear here. I mean Angela the cave troll. His intentions here are to get an apartment together in Nigeria as a sort of test run for their marriage. And then that will prove to everyone that this is a real marriage and not just a ploy for Michael to pick out the most monstrous, hideous woman possible and use her as a tool to get to America. Because that's not what's happening.
First,
here.
he's got to survive a year in a Nigerian apartment with her before he gets that high-speed internet. I don't know. Nigeria might have awesome internet. I really have no
doubt
idea.
it.
I think they're a pretty poor country.
Yeah.
Like they're a rough place.
They wouldn't spend what they do have on internet, I wouldn't think.
And I'll skip ahead here a bit, but they get married. His K-1 visa, which would allow him to come to the U.S., is denied, I think, solely because he's a Nigerian. Like, that's how bad certain things are there. So he ends up stuck there. I'll get into the rest of their future a little bit later on. Now, this is apparently the second time Angela's come to Nigeria because Michael
is.
He's talking to his uncle's wife, Auntie Lydia, who I found a charming little name.
Yeah, she's really charming to a point for sure.
We're going to encounter cultural differences here.
And that's it. I'm trying not to judge people based on cultural differences that, while I was raised around them as an American Midwesterner, I don't agree with.
Yeah, they're wrong. I will explicitly state their cultural things here that we're going to discuss are very wrong. However, it's hard to fault the people with it.
Yeah, everyone
that's
grew
just
up
what
in
it is. Michael and Auntie Lydia discuss the previous trip that Angela made there. We see some flashbacks. And what I remember about seeing that trip, I watched some of it when Katie watched it, was that Angela was expected to bring a gift for the family. That was just very much a cultural thing you do. You bring a gift when you're visiting the person you're trying to woo or whatever. And so what she brought, it was the shittiest microwave oven you've ever seen. I'm talking like $24 brand new at Walmart. That's what she brought as her gift to them.
Y'all can make some gazelle hot pockets in this.
Anyway, in conversation, Michael reveals that every time they talk, the two fight and fight and fight and fight. And he wants to try and change her ways. How do you think that'll go, guys?
Well, I think she seems really reasonable. Like, she'll be open to therapy, probably.
That's it. Bingo. Nailed it.
Really receptive to other people's ideas and points of view.
And of course, the ways I'm referring to are what we hinted at earlier. In Nigeria, there's still this very patriarchal society where men are considered the greater sex, like hands down. Women must be subservient. To Angela's credit, I guess, she wants nothing to do with that concept and absolutely will not bend to any man's demands. And another thing about Nigerian society is that having kids is very, very important. It's lineage. It's continuing your familial line.
So much so that you need multiple wives and a concubine.
That's exactly it. If the wife, your primary wife, I guess you would say, can't give you a child, you can have another one or a third one. You can have a concubine, whatever it takes to continue that family line.
So I meant to look into this. I don't know if you did, Van, but how common is that in Nigeria?
It's fairly common. It's enough that, for the most part, all the wives are, it's no big deal. Like that. Okay. That's just kind of what it is. I'm sure there's always the case of, I don't want to share you, so we're not going to do this. But for the most part, if it happens, no one would bat an eye. Well, of course, none of this is acceptable for Angela. So the goal is for her to actually try and have a baby. That's their plan.
Not likely.
He's going to squirt that seed right into her, and they're going to have a baby. Okay. More on this later.
Yeah, I actually looked up some scientific facts regarding the odds of Angela becoming pregnant.
How old was she? I don't remember.
She's 54 years old.
Yeah.
So that automatically would make her, a geriatric pregnancy technically occurs at 35.
Wow.
So she's 19 years older than that. But then, which I thought this would be obvious, but Michael, a human male, actually cannot mate with a hippopotamus female.
Before we move on to our next couple, we are introduced to the only heroes of the 90 Day Fiancé cast, a handful of cats. They're
this
playing
was
around.
Nice.
They're being cute. It's like, this is the only enjoyment I've gotten out of this whole experience.
How's everybody's cats doing, by the way? We all have cats. Everybody,
they're fine.
Yeah.
Being cats.
Yeah, they're eating goo because that's what Vladimir has to eat. She's old now.
I like thinking about our cats right now. We all know one another's cats. They're all great. And think of those cats, get the warm feeling inside, feel happy for a moment. Okay, back to the episode.
Let's crush all of your hopes and dreams now. The cats belong to Colt, or Colty, as we mentioned earlier. He's a 34-year-old melted lump of dough, and he's one of the most frustrating and disgusting people on the show, though, like I said, maybe not as malicious as some may be.
And is he wealthy for some reason?
I know he's a programmer of some capacity, so I think he makes okay money.
Yeah.
Colt is talking to his mother, Debbie, who is one of the most frustrating and disgusting people on this show as well. And Colt reveals in discussing his cats that he was married to a woman named Larissa, who I mentioned earlier. He has since divorced her. Of course, Larissa and Colt were a focus of previous versions of the show. She's Brazilian, Colt brought her to the U.S., and we will see plenty of them going forward from here. While Colt is sitting down with his mother because he wants to reveal to her that he is in fact dating another person, she's yet another Brazilian named Jess. Debbie recoils at this news because she believes that Colt should probably not be getting involved with yet another foreign woman that he would be responsible for, all while still dealing with Larissa and the divorce. I don't think it's finalized at this point.
No.
And Larissa's clearly still meddling.
And
Right.
and Larissa's meddling, and I believe Debbie and Colt are actively trying to get Larissa deported.
Yeah, it seemed to be the case.
I can't remember if that's necessarily true, or if it's posturing.
I couldn't tell either because
don't
they
remember.
mention it. They do mention it, like, I don't know if that process has begun toward the beginning of the episode, but I don't know if it's them that it actually sort of helped that get initiated or not.
You know what I could see it being is Debbie's all for it, so Colt's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do it. Of course I'll do it. Oh, we put the paperwork in, just telling her he's doing it.
Right.
I could see that because she is vile. Debbie is vile.
Oh, you can tell, and it unfurls more and more throughout this episode. Also, it just now hit me who she looks like to me, which is the mom from Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh my goodness, yes, she does.
Yeah. Not nearly as likable.
Certainly not. Now, Debbie and her plain blue T-shirt are just dumbfounded that Colt would make such a stupid decision, despite having clearly known Colt his whole life, considering he's her melted son.
That was the thing with this scene is at first I'm listening to her talk and I'm like, man, she's fucked up. That's a clingy, needy mom. And then she describes some of the stuff he's done and I'm like, okay, well, he's really awful. And she's probably got a point too, in addition to her being awful. Which the thing she said that really clued me in, she was like, well, you did propose to Larissa or whatever after 5 days or something along those lines. And that's when I realized she probably does have reason to worry about what Colt's decisions are going to be.
I think she really makes a lot out of that, too. She plays up her legitimate concerns to kind of...
to do the shitty part.
Yeah, to get free reign over interfering in Colt's shitty life.
He is most definitely her son. That's what I can say about that.
Yeah,
They
they're
are built for
manipulative
each other.
folks.
It runs in the genes there. and
Although-
I don't mean his really tight genes at
He's
all.
like size 58 jeans. Like, again, they don't even look related, but they also seem very related.
By the way, Colt literally sat down that day, the day of filming, and said, you know what, I'm going to be on TV. You know what, I'm going to dress my best, all right? I'm going to wear my shitty, ill-fitting black T-shirt and my short shorts.
Oh,
What-
yeah.
Why is he dressed like that?
There was a point when he had his legs crossed, those short shorts, I thought they were boxers. I thought he was sitting on the couch
Yeah,
in his
with his
underwear
mom.
talking to his mom.
And he always like hikes them up because he has a belly, which I have a belly. I get it. You pull the pants up to kind of hide it a little bit, but it doesn't hide it because he wears weird fitting T-shirts.
There's
and he's
something
very
wrong,
just
yeah.
like he's like Michelin Man shaped. It's just
the
rolling.
Spencer mentioned it earlier. It's the shape that's the thing.
The shape, yeah. He gets like strangely, unusually wide around the hips. Like he has it's not really a man build. Usually with
Shaped kind of like a diamond.
A little bit, sure.
when you get the belly as a guy, it's just a gut and that's it. But he kind of just all around expands.
Colt's got some junk in the trunk.
Yeah.
It's like he's wearing an inner tube, like that duck from that weird Garfield show with the farm animals.
Oh, yeah, U.S. Acres.
That's the one. He looks like that duck because of the inner tube. Actually, he kind of looks that egg with feet, like that egg with feet.
The bottom line is Colt was definitely illustrated in U.S. Acres, the show that no one gave a fuck about and didn't probably watch once Garfield was done.
People were it was bookended by Garfield episodes and like, just get over. I want to see Garfield.
When U.S. Acres was on, when I was a kid, if I didn't do it during commercials, that's when I'd like go to the refrigerator to see if it go to the bathroom, anything like that.
Take care of your daily child tasks.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it when Odie's on my screen.
Well, Colt reveals that Jess is going back to visit her family in Brazil. That's, of course, the new girlfriend, and she has invited him to go with her And guess what? He's going to go. Why wouldn't he go? He's a little
He actually,
sexy girl.
just like his mom also, he's going for a shit reason. He's trying to get close to her family and get himself in there to do another marriage, even though he doesn't really know Jess and she doesn't really know him. But he says a logical point, just as his mom always does with things like, well, I kind of regret I didn't get to see Brazil when I was with Larissa, which makes sense. You don't get that opportunity often unless you're Colt and you get it every few months.
It's pretty much gaslighting in a sense, because you're just shifting the focus to something else and treating it as positively.
Take the shred of truth and shine the light on that, ignoring all the muck in the darkness.
Now, Debbie tries to talk some sense into him, but being the sex-starved marshmallow he is, he decides he knows what's best. He's going there. We shift to our hybrid Mormon-Samoan duo of Kalani, the 31-year-old linebacker from Utah, and Asuelu, the 24-year-old vacant-brain Samoan, with some really cool royalty-free music. By the way, every transition scene in this show has the worst music.
It's really bad.
They wrote it that day.
It's a very, stock song sort of situation.
I even have one for you later because it's so stupid. These two are loading up their vehicle and reveal that they had planned on traveling to Samoa to visit Asuelu's family, but there's a measles outbreak, and Kalani doesn't want to risk it because of their 2 young children.
Nobody's got scabies in this one, though.
Fortunately, Asuelu, on the other hand, as a man-child, wants to go to Samoa, so he cannot fathom not going because he wants to do what he wants to do. He even complains that no one is on his side and you guys win.
And
meaning
I
Kalani
lose.
and her family.
He adds that part to it.
And then he starts to cry.
Pretty much.
At which
he
is
asked for his
manipulative
blankie,
tears.
I think, at this point.
Also,
starts sucking his thumb.
The funny part that I wrote, I think he says this multiple times. When he says no one's on his side, he actually says no one will stand on my side.
Yeah.
And then he says it later, too, so I put in my notes, can't someone just stand on Asuela's side?
Or at least tell him that's not how it goes.
You have to get up and walk over next to him if you agree.
Stand on my side.
Red Rover, send Kalani over.
Ultimately, though, intelligence wins out here, and they decide not to go to Samoa. They instead decide to go to California to have their kid's second birthday party with her family. Why do you have kid birthday parties at that age?
They'll never remember.
No.
That gets brought up a lot, too. Like, of all days.
On Oliver's birthday.
On Oliver, who's just fucking oblivious. On his birthday, when it's really, of course, just an excuse to have something to do in this episode. I've noticed something in our brief forays into reality television, guys. Half of the episodes of this, Duck Dynasty, Queer Eye, all of it, traveling from place to place.
There are a lot of getting from A to B scenes.
Yeah, then you have the characters have a kooky conversation. Ugh.
It's like Birdemic, with all the car scenes getting from here to there.
Somehow is.
After some more of being a shithead, Asuelu reveals he is just super upset because he's not the man of the house.
Yeah, he's not the man of the house.
The two are traveling with their 2 kids and Kalani's mother in the car, and after several hours of driving, Kalani's been in the back seat taking care of the kids.
Yeah.
She says, I'm not feeling well, my back hurts. Can we switch seats?
He's got good reasons he can't.
Well, what are those reasons, Brian?
They're going to want boobs when they wake up.
Which, by the way, he has this infatuation with boobs because he's a baby. He's a child.
So does Michael.
Yeah, actually he does. That's true.
Yeah.
It's just a boob-centric show. I'm a boob man myself, but I don't talk about it to anyone and everyone I come across.
Thought you
except
were
for you,
a
listeners.
Human man.
No, just the boobs.
You're
That's
just
all I
made
want.
of boobs.
Or birds, those little booby birds with the feet.
What about birds with boobs?
That's so hot.
What do you think? Okay, of all the cartoon birds, which one would you prefer to have boobs on?
Daffy Duck, because of the irony.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
That's because I couldn't think of any other cartoon
Bird.
I mean,
birds.
it's
What about
hard.
Big Bird?
Big Bird be hot. Big Bird is voiced by a woman and puppeted by a woman.
Uh-huh.
So,
Is Roadrunner a bird?
Yeah, Roadrunner's a bird.
It'd
you ever
be
seen
hard
one
to
of those
have-
fuckers? They're fast.
It'd be
Not
hard-
if, well, you'd think the boobs might slow him down.
That's what I was going to say. It'd be hard for Roadrunner to have boobs.
They need
Coyote,
a sports bra.
Coyote might track him down easier.
After switching seats, mere moments into traveling, Asuelu says, taking care of the kids is so easy. What is Kalani complaining about? This conversation then morphs into some good old-fashioned patriarchal sexism, as Asuelu basically says women in the U.S. have it way too easy. He says Samoan women work hard, but women in the U.S. have dishwashers, so therefore it's just too easy. Of course, Kalani's response is a very practical one. If it's so easy, Asuelu, why don't you help me do anything
Why don't
ever?
you do it?
And he starts to waffle, and he's like, I'm doing other stuff. He has such a soft-spoken, shitty little boy voice.
He says horrible sexist things and then kind of turns away to the side.
Yeah, he's very quiet about his hate-filled dialogues. Earlier, before he switches seats with her, he narrows his eyes when they talk about, I forget what it was. Something about the kids being sick and he wants to cancel the California trip too. He's like, we should just cancel this trip too.
Yeah, he's in that
kids'
shitty
health
logic.
comes
So
first.
transparent.
Yeah.
Like, well, if we had to cancel mine, we have to cancel yours. Like the falsest of equivocations.
And they're like, the kids have a cough, not measles.
Yeah. Although, again, as we said, backing out all the way to see the whole situation. Yeah, just don't go do a stupid ass party for a 2-year-old.
No, not at all. And honestly, don't marry a Swalo. It's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it.
Good,
after
you
seeing
learned.
this.
And let's actually zoom back farther. Let's just have this show not get made.
Kalani and her mother rightfully just start losing their shit here. They start railing into Swalo, and he then calls Kalani a lying bitch. That's a quote.
Went right
Direct
for
But
quote.
it
didn't
didn't
he?
even seem like the proper timing. Like he kind of threw it in later. It's just, what a strange guy, a strange fight, and an awkward car ride.
Very like several hours, I'm assuming, Utah to
How
California.
is he okay with that?
He also says the sound of her voice is so annoying. That's what I look for in a spouse, someone who's a lying bitch and someone who's so annoying. Kalani's mom, at this point, just absolutely loses it, tells Asuelu to talk like this about her daughter in front of her husband and see what happens. Now, what I really want to point out here is that this is a Mormon family. And if a Mormon housewife thinks you're being sexist, you're being pretty damn
Yeah.
sexist. Too much sexism.
That is
there.
when you know the popcorn's popping on the apricot tree.
They're not going to play more Monopoly that night. If in the heat of the moment, I'll give you an example here. Let's say Katie and I are having an argument. We don't argue. She just won't do it. I argue with myself. And I angrily, straight up said, "You're a lying bitch," with rage, with antagonistic intentions. She wouldn't even get mad. She would walk out of the room and start packing her shit. I don't understand why this is acceptable for anyone to have in a relationship. If you're in a relationship where you straight up call your significant other names because you're angry, that's not good.
No, it is not. Although you're leaving out one thing, and that's that you and Katie are not contractually obligated to appear in a certain amount of episodes
Not yet, anyway.
this year. Then you might find that you're both more lenient in being screamed at.
All right, it's now time to revisit our power couple that we discussed last week, Paul and Karine, and power couple they are. We find the two of them have made their way to the United States, and Paul is wearing his best camouflage T-shirt and doing his best to explain how much better the U.S. is than Brazil. You see, Karine has a bit of a cough, and so Paul brings her a cup of water out of the hotel's bathroom
He
faucet.
is so excited about this tap water that she's going to be drinking.
Yeah.
We're seeing the face of a man who believes he's just won the World Series.
He's trying to show her that the water's perfectly good out of the faucet and is in fact good for your teeth because here in America, we have chemicals that are good for your teeth and stuff too. Here's the thing. I wouldn't drink out of a hotel faucet out of the bathroom.
Especially
that's
whatever
disgusting.
hotel it is that Paul has selected.
Yeah, he's not paying big bucks for this.
I was
This is
on
a
the
dinky
radio.
place.
They said they'll leave the light on for you.
Also, is it just me? But I've always had a thing like if you're going to drink tap water, don't use the bathroom faucet. Like the kitchen, maybe depending on how the tap water is there. But I just don't think it's okay to get it out of the bathroom. It's the same water. I get that, but it's just a strange concept.
I'm 100% with you. There is nothing that arguably is different about it. Aside from, to me, the bathroom sink is used to do terrible things.
It's just the association. But
Yeah.
you don't get your glass and go to the bathroom and
I'm
fill
the
it up.
same way, and I think that there's some science to it, right? Shit particles and whatnot. Like
That's a good point. So, yeah,
Yeah.
there's that to it. Because I'm sure in Brian Vaughn's bathroom, it's on the ceiling.
I mean, I'm in there all the time making brown. Sometimes I'm making green. Sometimes it's black. Sometimes I need a doctor.
Now, we can already see how badly Paul has worn on Karine over the years because she immediately rolls her eyes and just relents to whatever it is Paul
She
wants
is
her
not
to do.
fucking doing it.
Just so he'll shut the fuck up is really what it is. I should point out, by the way, at this point, the two have that baby together, if I hadn't mentioned that earlier. And I would like to direct you now to the inevitable crowdfunding page that will be set up briefly to get this kid the psychiatric help he needs to survive being a child of Paul and Karine.
Yeah.
Paul reveals that in Brazil, they didn't have a car. So now they're going to go to his mom's house to show Karine how great she's got
I
it
love
now.
how proud of the car he is.
Yeah, he does have a car here. They're going to go pick it up.
This is the best thing since that fucking tap water.
However, At his mother's house, we are then treated to the visage of Paul's chariot.
Mm-hmm.
The gray-brown and rusted body of a reliable 2001 Toyota Corolla with bumper damage that's also full to the brim with absolute garbage.
I like how Karine immediately starts talking shit about the car.
Yes.
Just immediately.
You know she'd prepared it on the way there,
This
too, in
is
her
a
head.
woman who was assaulted with a machete the last time we saw her, and she thinks Paul's life sucks.
Paul finds some food that has been in the car, presumably for the last 6 months while he's been in Brazil.
That's maybe my favorite part of the episode, when he casually dumps like a food container of fries out that had been in there for like, I don't know, 100
frozen.
days.
They were hard.
And it was on like his neighbor's lawn.
Yeah.
It wasn't, even if it's just his mom's lawn, that like, come on. But his like neighbor's lawn? Come on, you gross little fucker. Karine is then disgusted with Paul's shitmobile. But this is not the only problem we have here. You see, Paul's mother has taken the house keys off of his key ring.
I would too.
So while he's able to get in the car, he has the car keys, he cannot get into the house to get a trash bag to collect his garbage treasures out of the car. And this is, you really kind of hinted at it there, Spencer. We don't see Paul's mom in this episode. We see him in other ones. And she eventually plays her hand that Paul's just a shithead who will, if she gives him an inch, he'll take a mile.
Sure, I can see that.
But we know there's more to his prison story than he let on, because he had other charges. So I'm sure he's already burned down his own house and things like that. I don't know that you'd trust the guy much with your house.
That's a very good point. You wouldn't want to give someone keys to your house when they burnt their own down.
He's got a thing with houses, and that's that he likes to kill them.
Well, don't forget he had that restraining order placed against him by his ex-girlfriend, and I don't know the details of that. What I do know is that if someone has the problem, to actually go to the effort to take and pay the money to take out a restraining order, it's kind of a big
serious.
deal.
And we don't know that the restraining order wasn't placed. His ex wasn't also a house.
Maybe it was house.
Oh, shit.
He went to prison that one time. We talked about it on the Patreon bonus show.
That
Go check
is
out
true.
Patreon.com/Bootu Inc. For just $2 a month or more, you get all sorts of bonus content, including a Bootu Boys quiz that we just did
Smooth as silk.
last week.
That's how you do it right there.
Now, Paul continues gathering fetid trash, and Karine asks him how much longer this is going to take. She eventually calls out the dirty, 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 dirty mess in the car, to which Paul responds with a very classy comeback. Let's listen to the whole conversation here.
How long, Paul?
Huh?
How long?
How long? What?
Here. Oh my gosh. Look, how can I say sujo? Sujo, sujo, sujo.
You in a wooden hut.
What the about?
You were in a wooden hut.
Love is in the air.
Paul's classy. Let's face it. He knows how to sweet talk a lady.
Yeah, this is the happily ever after couple here too.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the one that made it.
Paul then reveals he thinks Karine is being too tough on him because he's trying to his best to make everything work. And while it may not be the best situation, it's what he has to work with. So I'll recap that situation to you, gentlemen. America's the best, according to Paul. But also, look, I understand how shitty everything is, so why do you have to be so mean about it?
You know, it's up to us as the viewer to make that call.
It was a ballsy choice to let the viewer fill in the blanks, but I like it.
Yeah.
What a great directorial
This is art.
decision. Art. Paul gets the car cleaned up enough to load up the baby and Karine, and they pull out onto the road with Paul saying, "Hey, we've been in Ubers worse than this," to which Karine responds, "I hate you."
Oh, man, that was so great. And also, no, they haven't. You have to have like a car released last year to drive for Uber.
Yes. Now we hear a rousing rendition of the hit song, "Ain't No Love Letter, You Got to Do Better," by the Let's Write a Song in an Hour for a Transition Scene band. And Colt is sitting in what I can only imagine is his sad, sad home office studying Portuguese on his laptop. I will give him credit in that regard. He's actually trying to learn the language of the person he's interested in. No one does that on this show. No one.
Yeah.
So,
or at least
kudos.
he's chosen to film a scene where he's doing that.
It was basic, like, level 1 Rosetta Stone.
That's
so he
what
hadn't
made
gotten
me
far
wonder
into it.
if this was just like a one-off, like, let's make it look like I do give a shit.
Because he's as manipulative to do
Right.
that. He would do that. He ends up calling his new Brazilian gal Jess. Colt tells Jess that she looks beautiful and asks if she's going out tonight. She reveals that she's going to a chic bar and needs some sex clothes. I assume this just means sexy clothes.
What do you guys consider your sex clothes?
The
Oh, I'm
pants
wearing
without
them.
the hole in them, or with the hole in them.
Yeah, you have to cut a hole.
Yeah, but that's your only outfit. So
yeah.
all clothes
But
are
it's
your
also
sex
the
clothes.
sex clothes, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, you can't. He's
That's
not
where they started.
bullshitting.
That's where they started, and that's where it stopped.
That's actually why he wears them all the time now, is the first time he donned the outfit, sex time.
Colt asks how Jess's cat is doing, and Jess picks up the chunky boy, referring to the cat as plus size, which Colt says, hey, that's like me.
As an owner of a plus-size cat, here's what I have to say. Colt, how dare you compare yourself to our beautiful, oversized felines of the world.
Colt also likes to bat around at toys all day and just eat piles of goo. Now, the point of this whole conversation is that Colt tells Jess he's revealed he's dating her to his mother, Debbie, of course, and somehow the next logical step is, when I come with you to Brazil to meet your family, can I bring my mom with me too? And
This
yes,
was another
she does.
thing that like really added more I hate you points to Colt for me. It's like, none of this makes sense with what a person would really do if they were in love.
Bring their mommy.
Yeah. And also, like, do this rush job thing while you're talking to 8 other people at once.
They also discuss how Colt wants to ask her father for permission to date her. Jess reveals this is a big deal to her because her dad is super important to her as well, and she needs him to approve their relationship. Jess says, I love you, Colt, but sorry, I love my dad more. And then the show takes, makes a decision because we get this dramatic violin screech, like hook noise. And I think that implies that this is devastating news to Colt, that she might love her dad more.
That's definitely like the implication, but also to use the score to imply that this is devastating for Colt and to use music in that way would also tells me the show thinks that we're supposed to be able to feel for Colt.
Yeah, I'm super worried about how well it works out with Colt's second Brazilian wife here.
Yeah, when he's also talking to other people right now, and he's got options. Somehow.
Oh, I need a break. So let's go ahead and take one of those, and then when we come back, we'll discuss a brand new couple. We move on to our next shitty couple. Andre, the 33-year-old Moldovan piece of fucking shit, and Elizabeth, a.k.a. Libby, the 29-year-old Floridian fucking piece of shit.
Is this our closest in age couple?
Yes. Yeah, because usually there's a fairly large
Because
gap.
they're kind of awful in similar ways.
They are, and kind of like you guys said earlier on, there were moments where you're like, okay, these
They have
two are
elements
fine.
of normalcy.
They are not.
And it really starts to like unveil itself, their rot, over the course of the episode.
And it becomes super apparent over the various series. And at the end of this episode, when I describe what has happened to them, I'll talk more about some of the bullshit things they do. I despise them vehemently. They're probably my least favorite group as a whole, including Elizabeth's whole family, Libby's family, because they're featured very prominently going forward.
They're certainly mentioned in this episode.
Libby reveals that they are taking a trip to Moldova, and she's packing her and her baby's belongings. She talks about how tough that is because she not only has to pack the things, but also watch the baby because Andre's a shitty dad and, according to her, sitting there like a bump on a log.
I'd noticed that line. I don't think I've ever heard that before.
That's definitely a Southern Hokey
It's
expression.
a very old-timey thing to say, too, which is strange because, she's, 29? Yeah.
But from Florida and from a swamp family, so I kind of get it.
True.
When she's finished, Andre makes sure to tell her how manly he is because, like a real manly man, he's only going to take 5 minutes to pack his bags. And you know what? His bag is also much manlier than hers because it's like 3 times smaller.
They even did like a cutaway to where he's talking about the process there. And like he's really proud of his packing skills, apparently.
He is proud. That is the way to describe Andre.
Yeah.
In general.
He thinks his shit does not stink.
Very
he is
proud.
full of himself.
Now, I couldn't really tell exactly what he said because he does have the accent, but he said something about how he takes emotion out of it or something. Like I forget
Out
what
of
it was.
packing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like he looks at it very methodically or something. I could not tell, but he was really impressed with himself.
He
this
was.
whole process.
Yeah, which he shouldn't be because his process of packing is a lot like what I'd imagine Donkey Kong's would be.
it didn't work
Stuff
very well.
it in. He is, in fact, so masculine and manly, guys. He goes on to speak to Libby like a child and shows just how manly his packing skills are because he already has a bunch of jeans folded up. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be endearing. I don't know if that's the intention here.
I hope not.
Or maybe it's cool. We're supposed to think like, wow, this cool dude can pack a bag.
He always has a big pile of jeans ready to shove into anything at a moment's notice.
Every second he's on screen, I get angrier and angrier. I cannot stand him. But don't worry, Andre's comeuppance is afoot. It turns out the bag is packed too tightly, and he can't get it to close. So he just gets real angry at the inanimate object.
TLC, meanwhile, determined that this was worthy of airtime in a 90-minute episode of television.
He just starts screaming at the bag. It's the bag's fault. The bag is not good.
I like the
learned
idea
this
of
bag."
like them working together as they're at the episode, thinking about scenes they might have to take out. Well, we can't take that. We can't take Andre's packing scene out. We gotta keep
shit,
that
if
one.
we take that out, how are we supposed to get a fucking Emmy?
He just complains and complains about the bag. It's not his fault. It's the goddamn bag's fault.
Now, what are they fucking going to Moldova to do? It's just
They're
to
gonna have a
meet the
second
family.
wedding.
What does that mean? I thought I heard that phrase.
You'll hear more about it when we get to meet the family. It's a religious thing with the Moldovan.
I knew it sounded stupid.
Yeah, it is. So essentially, they were married, I believe, in the U.S. first. I mean, that
And
would
his
make the most
family
sense.
doesn't consider it legit or whatever.
Correct. So it's to
Which,
go
I
there
mean,
for that.
if marriage is important to you in a cultural manner, and here I am doing my disclaimer. No, I don't like any of this. That's what I think. I think they're doing a second marriage, and they shouldn't have done a first one, and I think this show is awful.
That covers it.
Yeah, we could just stop here at this point. This is very much the equivalent of the thought left my brain. Hold on. What did we discuss earlier?
That's the more of this you watch,
Okay.
there are going to be fewer thoughts that can enter your brain.
It's just melting in here. No, this is the equivalent of the 2-year-old birthday party.
Yes, it
Why?
is.
Why are you doing? You don't need to do that.
That's
Stop
true.
that. Stop that, Libby and Andre.
Yeah, quit it. Find something to really do.
So they're going to Moldova for that second wedding. They arrive at the airport. They're checking their bags, and one of the bags clocks in at 50.5 pounds.
Whose bag is it, do you think?
The airport employee says they need to get this bag under 50 pounds. Otherwise, there's an extra $200 fee. Now, Libby just shows her cards right here. Because the second this happens, she gives out a nice hearty, no.
The Tampa spills right out of her.
This is her 2-7 unsuited in her hand. Basically, it's her bird-faced official I'm a Karen card. She puts that on the table. Andre actually is just, let's not worry about it. Let's take a thing out of the bag and put it in my pocket, and the problem's solved. So they do that.
Yeah.
Seems like you
There
should
it
have done
is.
that in the
It's
first
done.
place.
And then also Libby at this point tries to just act with the airport employee like, oh, okay. Like there's nothing happened there. There was no outrage.
Andre is next excitedly talking about seeing his family and friends again, and Libby says that she's nervous because it's the first time her fat swamp family are going to meet Andre's Moldovan family, and she just doesn't know how to go. Of course, those of you out there who have seen a lot of Libby's family do understand that the reason she's concerned about this is because her fat swamp family are her fat swamp family, and they're just an insufferable crew of pretentious spoiled brats, coke addicts, and fame-hungry bird-faced people. More at the end of the episode. We're next formally introduced to Colt's ex-wife, Larissa, who at this point is still mostly human. And I say that because long-term fans of the show know that in the ensuing years, she undergoes so much plastic surgery, she becomes, as Obi-Wan might say, more silicone than man now.
And this has already begun as we see Larissa right now.
Yeah, I think she's done the lip stuff at this point. She's very much a physically oriented person. She has to be beautiful because that's all she has to
And
offer.
she'll, same thing with partners, only except like really, really ripped dudes.
Super hot guys like Colt. And again, I know I keep repeating this. I truly don't like to make fun of a person's appearance. If she really wants to inject herself with every substance under the moon and have quadruple D breast implants because she can make money on OnlyFans, literally, I'm saying this with all seriousness, do it. By all means, do it. I have no problem with people selling stuff on OnlyFans. It's consenting adults doing whatever they want. Have at it. But she is a violent person. She has actually assaulted Colt and was arrested a couple of times because of how physical she was with him. She is a fame-hungry, at this point, will do anything to make money. And I'm going to use every method at my disposal to make fun of these people because they're awful people.
She's also a case of where she's right about some of these things she says, like about Colt and about Debbie.
Yeah. She says he's nasty. She's dead right. She couldn't be more right.
Yeah, but she refers to him as a geek player at one point, which is kind of funny. But it's another case of this. She's right about these things, but that doesn't take away that anything Colt says about her also right.
And she's right about them for the wrong reason. She's
Yes.
not right to warn Jess. She's right because she wants to be a part of Colt's
She wants
life.
to continue
she
being
likes the
vengeful.
drama.
Yeah, and I would imagine there's more airtime for her if she's still antagonizing Colt.
Sure, yeah.
That's actually where that conversation is actually where the episode title came, right? Isn't that where she calls? Is it Debbie, Colt's
Yes.
mom? It calls her a wolf.
Refers to her as a wolf, yes, talking to Jess here. And we get an example of her vapid cluelessness here right away because Larissa explains she's been trying to find a new man. She wants to find a new man, but she's had problems with it because of Colt. It's Colt's fault.
Gotta be.
And look, I'm sure he did a number on her, right?
Yeah, I'm sure he was awful and she was awful and whatnot. But at that point, just don't be around the person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you cannot just sit there and blame him entirely for all of your problems because you're a psychopath. You're a violent psychopath.
Get help. Come on.
Larissa reveals she has been stalking Colt on social media and decides she wants to warn his new girlfriend about the dangers of this milky wad. So we get one of my favorite things that this show does. We have two Brazilian women here.
I love this, yeah.
Jess and Larissa, who speak Portuguese as their native language.
We're just allowed, and we could have had subtitles. It was so awkward listening to them talk.
No, they have to have the conversation in English because most people watching this are in the U.S. They speak English.
But we can read, but I feel like we would have gotten a much more telling conversation if we'd gotten just subtitled Portuguese.
Yes, I even had a note of how jarring it was listening to them try to communicate in not their native languages. Like, it made no sense.
And for their parts, they both are comprehensible, but
it would have been so much better,
in their familiar tongue where they can speak with more nuance. This would have been, I think, a lot more fascinating.
They weren't using those expensive words.
Yeah.
Now, mostly this conversation here is just Larissa referring to Colt as a demon, but there's also this little gem.
Colt's like a whale that's everyone look and feel, oh, he's so cute, that animal, look, but he's very dangerous. And
well, a lot of questions coming up here for this one.
Yeah.
Who's like, oh, look how cute that whale is. Such a cute, enormous, barnacle-covered monster.
I think she got a little bit, she started changing directions. At first, she was just describing his size, and then after that, she was trying to kind of play on how he does try to come across as a nice guy, well-meaning, when in fact he's vicious and horrible.
Yeah, and I think getting at the heart of because he's an overweight, traditionally physically unattractive nerd type, then people might not necessarily think he can be capable of such awful behavior.
I think I'm going to argue against this because she's not smart enough to associate anything with anything.
Maybe she means he's like the whale like casinos have, when they have the big spenders.
I guess he is. He's spending all his money on these Brazilian women to become his wife.
Maybe she means he's cute like a whale, like like a banshee.
W-A-I.
It's adorable.
It's so adorable.
Yeah.
You know that bit in Odysseus when the banshees were screaming at his boat and they're like, that's just so adorable.
Oh, it's
Let's
so
go over
cute.
There and crash
you
on
just
the
want to
rocks.
put it in a frame and put it on your wall.
Larissa's whole thing here is that Colt will use Jess up, spit her out, and move on like the player. Yes.
Nasty player.
Which I think she's actually just talking about food here.
She tells Jess to watch one thing. Colt will hide his phone from her because he's likely fooling around with other women. And Jess hears this, and it clearly resonates with her because she just stops. She's like, okay.
Seems like what he has been doing.
And then this is where Larissa also warns her about Debbie, Colt's mom, who she refers to as a wolf. Like the title of the episode, guys.
Whoa.
How meta is that? When we return from a commercial break, we can find Jabba the Hutt has entered a clothing store. One can only assume
I think that's Angela.
One can only assume that a high-profile Hutt cartel meeting is about to take place.
No, that's Angela. That's what I have. That's what I have in my notes.
Well, this changes everything.
I got this all wrong.
I don't even think Jabba the Hutt's in this episode.
Oh.
Not this one.
Oh, okay.
He's not even in this season.
Next year, though. Well, anyway, okay, fine. Angela is at this store because she's interested in buying a suit for Michael for the wedding. She has invited her best friend JoJo to help her find the suit.
I can't stop laughing at the idea of Jabba the Hutt being in an episode and just
tuxedo.
Angela no Wonga.
Okay, go ahead. I had to laugh there.
Yeah, so...
Wait, did we cover how when she enters this store, she's greeted by Colonel Marvis Greenhorn, the store's lone employee who will sell you used batteries or tuxedos?
In this tiny, cramped store that's full to the brim of stuff?
And I mean... Again, I think he's of some rank. He has a cool hat.
One of the more likable characters on this show, right?
Yeah.
I enjoyed seeing him. He was
doesn't
my favorite
talk
character.
a lot, which I think would make a lot of these characters more likable.
So JoJo and Angela are at this store to try and find a suit, again, for Michael. And JoJo's there to help Angela make some decisions. After JoJo arrives, we get, I think, our first example of something that happens 100% of the time on the show when we meet the fiancé's friends. JoJo says, I think Angela's making a terrible mistake and jumping into this too quickly. Happens every damn time. The friend says this, and you know what the American says? I love love and I'm in love.
Yeah.
And that's it.
As vaguely as
over.
possible.
Mm-hmm. JoJo senses something is amiss here with Angela. She's not her usual perky self. And she questions her to reveal what's troubling her. Angela opens...
Which is usually something you do in the middle of a clothing store.
Yes, that's
or
where
what's
you go.
troubling you?
You have to worry about doing it out of the Colonel's earshot.
Angela opens up, and she actually says here, ho, 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 picha wanchi long batang nane du chunky troy.
I think it's... I don't remember that.
What?
No, she just talks about how she loves Michael.
Oh, okay.
And she talks about, like, what the wedding ceremony would be like and, like, you know, how she gets to have an American-style wedding. Do you not remember this?
I'll skip ahead my notes. We'll be fine.
Okay.
So Angela says that Skyla, her daughter, not the one who molests children,
Right.
by the way, different daughter, can't make it to the wedding in Nigeria, and that means that Angela does not have a witness for the wedding. I'm presuming this means that you have to have somebody there who is also American who can say, yes, this was official, it's real, so that way the U.S. recognizes the wedding.
I think
guess.
it's something about being put in witness protection, and then Harrison Ford has to go to live in an Amish community to have a witness.
Okay, I could see that. But is this before or after he's frozen in carbonite?
This is after.
Oh, that makes sense.
But not by much, maybe 3 years.
Oh, okay, perfect. JoJo, of course, falls for Angela's basic bullshit here. She's implying, I need somebody to go, otherwise I'm in trouble. JoJo says, yeah, fine, I'll go with
Otherwise,
you to
who's going
Nigeria.
to go halvesies on the
so-
Pall Mall cartons with me?
That's like the best friend I've ever seen someone actually do that. And I would not go anywhere near that situation if I were her.
No, not at all. And presumably she knows Angela. Why would you choose to do this?
No, that
knowing
was
Angela.
that was really generous.
JoJo and Angela have then figured out the plan. They pick out a cool white suit for Michael, genuinely cool looking little tuxedo here. Some other accessories we'll get into later. After another commercial break, we're back with, Asuelu and Kalani. They've arrived in California at their Airbnb, and Kalani talks about how awkward the car ride was.
Thank God it won't get more awkward.
Asuelu seems to be used to subservient women in Samoa, but that shit's not going to fly here in the U.S. One more time, I'm going to say this. If a woman from a Mormon family is upset that you're being too sexist, you're being too goddamn sexist. That's just too much. This shit's a big deal at that point. Asuelu immediately bolts for the backyard at this place and sees an orange tree with fruit growing on it. So he does what pretty much any adult man
Jumps
would
up
do.
there and gets
Hell
that
yeah.
orange.
He climbs up on some park bench. He begins furiously jumping and swatting at the tree, trying to get the oranges, the sweet fruit that are just out of his reach.
Metaphor.
Eventually, he does get a hold of an orange because Kalani comes out to find him peeling it. It's very unripe at this point.
Yeah.
It's green.
It's clearly disgusting and he won't
Yes.
stop eating it. He's determined to eat that entire orange.
I just can't stress enough that this is not an adult man.
No.
This is just a big child.
Nothing
even a
about the
human
way
at
he
all.
acts. Now, how did they... You even said it, but I'll be honest, there's a lot of shitty people to keep track of.
Yes.
What are they? Why are they together?
She took a trip to Samoa.
And said, I gotta have this.
And he charmed her somehow.
He did.
Yeah,
he
said,
was
"You're
working at the
stupid and
resort.
bad, and I hate
You're a
you."
lying bitch.
So he was working at the resort and presumably charmed her right into his bed because that's when the two did it. They then had a kid. She was pregnant. So I think the Mormon kicked in and she's like, I have to marry him at this point.
I guess so.
I mean, she went that long without having sex and decided to make an exception for Asuelu.
She saw him and his can opener head
She's like, I'm gonna lose my virginity to this man.
tonight.
There's just something about the way he debases me.
Kalani confronts Asuelu about his bullshit, and he just keeps repeating the same talking points of, your job is easy. Your mom is annoying. You're annoying. He literally says those things.
I really expected an I know you are, but what am I?
Kalani tells him that what he did was wrong and offensive, and like the adult man he is, he says, well, you brought it up. It's not my fault you make me say the things I say. At this, Kalani gets upset and refers to Asuelu as a manipulator.
Yeah, that's a compliment for him, though. He's not that smart. He's not smart enough to manipulate.
That's true.
Wait, what does that even mean, guys? I've never heard a word like that.
Would you attach a price tag to said
I mean, I
word?
don't make a lot of money, so...
Because he replies, why you use those expensive words? Just use simple words. And look, I know there's a little bit of a language disconnect here. Samoa is the native language of Samoa, but English is taught as a primary second language. So I'm sure there's a little bit of disconnect. And he even says later on in the episode, my English no good. But
That's not an excuse.
manipulator, it's not even a big word. It's surely he's heard that. I don't.
And I got the sense that he knows what the implication is regardless and is
Yes.
just trying to redirect it.
Which
Context
is what he
clues
does.
point to what it is.
But in the
for
way
sure.
that a child would.
We get a scene here where Asuelu comes back into the house to gather his things, but obviously things are tense between him and Kalani as well as her mother. And in one long, uninterrupted shot, we get to see the whole experience of Asuelu awkwardly gathering his phone, his backpack, all sorts of stuff.
And
the
just
other two,
leaving.
Yeah, he just leaves. But the other two just sit there in silence the whole time. They're just like, let's not talk about Asuelu in the room. And eventually, he just wanders right out the front door. And again, I don't mean goes into the backyard.
No,
he sits
no.
down. He walks down the road. He's just
gone,
leaving
man.
with his things.
He's
like
going
one
to
of those
walk till he
things-
stops.
One of those things like, sometimes you might be in a spot, like basically a public setting or something with a group of people where you want to do that, but you can't because it's insane and ridiculous.
When I was in middle school, George Washington Carver Middle School in Springfield, Missouri, there was this kid who was a bad kid, and he was always in trouble. He was often suspended.
Had a leather jacket, sunglasses.
No, he wasn't cool.
Oh, yeah, he was a Paul.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
So he's starting some bullshit outside during a fire drill.
Listen to the anger in Brian's voice.
Well, I was a fucking good kid, okay? I was probably reading Sphere by Michael Crichton. I don't know. This kid starts some shit with another kid, and he's already in, and people kind of knew this, that he was on the verge of like a real problem. He'd been suspended so many times. And a teacher runs over to break up the scuffle that's begun, and his name was Thomas, and he yells at him, he's like, Thomas! And Thomas stares at the teacher, stares at the field beside Carver Middle School, and takes the fuck off into just a field, and then just keeps going.
Did he ever come back?
I think he was either kicked out or suspended for that year or something. And I think he must have known that was going to happen. So,
Yeah.
but rather than sit there and face the music, his child brain said, I'll just keep going.
I'm just going to take
I'll
off.
run until I hit Kansas. And anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying,
Yeah, that child was a Swelu.
yes.
Did the teacher go after him and just let him
I
go?
think
let him go.
I think they had to call, like there was a calling. And again, I was like 12, but this is my memory. And what I do know for certain, that kid Thomas, he just took off.
Yeah,
Gorgeous Thomas.
Yeah.
if I were an adult in that situation, I'd be like, oh God, I hope he doesn't come back.
Oh, and I know they didn't want him back.
Certainly.
I didn't want him back.
The producers actually follow Asuelu, and he has meandered his way to a bus stop with his things. He's just going to go back to Utah by himself.
Yeah.
The producers get his mic off of him, and just whoosh, away he goes on the bus. The bus just leaves. Just he's gone. And Kaslani is just like, what the fuck just happened?
He's got a business meeting with Carlos Danger out in Utah.
I think that's the last we see of these two this episode, so I'll reveal a little bit here. What he does at this point, and I may be getting the details not exactly right, but he goes somewhere, stays in town. He doesn't actually go back to Utah, but he hides somewhere, and Kalani's like, where are you? We can come get you. He says, I'm here, come get me. Turns out he just gave her a false location.
Yeah.
He does that
This is-
3 times.
This is even weirder
Ugh.
than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is what ultimately becomes of them. Do you know?
Let's save that for the end of the
Oh,
episode.
okay, I can't
Okay.
wait. I'm
Yeah.
actually
So,
excited about that.
Now that we're done with Asuelu and Kalani, let's get on to
that's
some
unfortunate.
normal stuff, right?
Yes, that's exactly how I would describe what we're about to discuss.
Okay, what's the first thing we see in the next scene?
Well, having purchased a suit for Michael, Jabba the Hutt is busy packing his bag for his
I
trip
think
to
that's
Nigeria.
Angela in this scene too. Just
Still?
yeah.
My notes say that he's going to make the trip to Nigeria atop his floating pleasure barge. Is that not him
No,
here?
I don't think so. I think they're taking a plane to Nigeria.
Fine, I'll skip ahead again.
Okay. Fuck God.
We are treated not only to a full-blown view of rolls upon rolls of Angela Deem, but also to the sight of her very thin underwear that she's
Amber
holding
waves
up.
of grain.
If she put that underwear on her body and it withstood that for any length of time, we would need to give that fabric a Medal of Honor.
It's like putting a rubber band around a great oak.
She comes out of the bedroom and sees several dozen children just kind of
My
hanging
notes
around,
says 15 to 18 small children.
just screaming anarchy. And they're basically clamoring around the bed of Angela's mother.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to be as tactful as I can with this. She appears to be barely clinging to her last gasp of life.
Wait,
and is a ghoul.
Yeah, that's the nicest way to say it.
How would you say it, Brian?
I'll stick with what you said, but
Okay.
I was really struck by how uncertain I was what species I was, like what was going on.
She's one of those people that, bless her and everything, but when you see her, you hurt inside.
Yeah, I feel like something's physically like really bad.
Yes.
And I don't know what the diagnosis is, but I think it's worse than whatever that is. Maybe an undiscovered thing.
This was the coronavirus before the coronavirus actually happened.
We need to get House on the phone ASAP.
I don't think he wants this case.
No.
He's going to skip right over this one unless you give him plenty of extra Vicodin. Angela asks this swarm of children if they would like to see the wedding dress. And for some reason, the kids cheer and whoop, and they're like, yeah, of course we want to see the wedding dress. Come on, Meemaw.
Yeah.
Show us.
What is, did you already say it, or how does she have all these kids around?
Because
Where
she's
are they?
a swamp woman who
Is she a
has
teacher or
swamp
something?
children. No, she's a
They're all her
hospice worker.
grandkids, right?
They're her grandkids. These are all related to her.
Oh, okay.
She has...
Wow.
These children have some part of Angela deep within them.
Ugh.
Think about that
That's
for a minute.
really
These are all
disgusting.
little Angela Deems running around.
It's
And,
like some sort of dormant condition that someday will come out.
Like
For
the
now,
alien,
they're fine. They look like children.
like a face hugger, put the thing in them. Eventually, it's going to burst out and be an awful monster. But right now, they're children and they're okay.
Jennifer has started blending her Big Macs in a blender and drinking them. Oh shit, the angel is coming out.
We then get to see a bloated, cigarette-stained fashion show with Angela wearing her wedding dress and a crown on her head.
Yeah, because she's going to be crowned Meemaw's king. That's what she says.
I picture her saying that as she's chomping on the first of the 5 children.
Just devouring one halfway
See,
through
like a
it.
shoe dripping out
Meemaw
of her
said
mouth.
2 arms is a gift, one's just fine.
And she actually even shows to these children that she has bought a crown for Michael to wear.
Yeah.
At every wedding where you crown the bride and groom,
Yeah, that's how they work.
this swarm of children cheer and whoop. And it's then that I wonder why Angela's mother isn't fully embracing the sweet release of death.
This is
to
like what the
escape this
Kremlings
nightmare.
did whenever King K. Rool announced his marriage.
His marriage to Trixie Kong.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to stop making fun of the mother because I do feel bad here. To sum up this last little bit, Angela basically asks permission from her mother to leave her and go get married, and her mother insists that Angela, please God, leave me be and go away. We get some somber music playing here, piano music. Angela reveals she's sad to have to leave her mother and her just massive gathering of grandchildren, but it's the only way she can get married. Libby and Andre are up next, and before I forget, I want to point out that they did decide to take a trip back to 1920 and name their baby daughter Eleanor. We get a couple of sweet moments, and at the airport, Andre's father and uncle greet Andre, Libby, and the baby, and they exchange their pleasantries. They travel to his parents' apartment, and everyone hugs and smiles. They're
Lots
so
more
excited to see
traveling
each
to
other.
kill time. The plane and then getting to the apartment.
And it's just kind of sweet. It's like, oh, this is great. They're all one big happy family.
So normal.
Thus ends the sweet part of Andre and Libby's story.
Yeah, we will not get anything close to that again.
This whole wad of Moldovans alongside Libby and the kids are now having a big old meal together, and Andre asks his uncle and wife to be the godfather of the kids at the wedding, which Andre repeatedly says, it's a big deal over here. Over here, big deal.
I noticed that Libby didn't seem to know this was going to happen prior to the meal, so he just kind of sprang it on them and didn't tell his
One of
wife.
many things.
Oh, yeah. There's, I don't think Libby knew about anything that was about to happen here.
This is his religion, and she even complains about that in a Talking Head segment. Like, he knew this. Why didn't he tell me this in advance? Libby asks what all being a godfather to the kids entails, and the family explains to her they'll be heavily involved with the wedding and basically begin acting as second parents to the kids. The conversation, as it should in any family gathering, shifts to religion because, let's face it, heavily religious people are often the most understanding, compassionate, and caring of people, or not afraid to learn new things.
That's what dogma does. When you only believe a strict set of rules and won't deviate from it, really makes you flexible and kind.
That's right. It turns out that Libby is a Baptist, which does explain an awful lot because Baptists are awful.
I went to a Baptist church for several years as a child. It was brutal. I don't know how I'm this terrible. Oh.
Andre's family explains that if you are not Orthodox, Christian, or whatever their religion is, Romanian religion, then you're going to be baptized there as well. In fact, it's a requirement to get married there. You have to be baptized. So not only kids, but Libby now has to be baptized.
Okay, I'm going to stop you guys right here.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever... Okay, if you were in a relationship and for whatever the reason...
Oh, that would be the end of it.
Right?
I can already tell where you're going with
Yeah, it
this.
has to be, right?
That's just it.
I'm
It's
not,
like,
I'm not getting
I'm not gonna do it.
baptized, no.
Yeah, there's no scenario.
I'm not going to do it. If you want to be with me still, that's fine. We can be together. But if you don't, I understand. This is just, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's also such a crazy demand to put upon a person.
Mm-hmm. Or you could just do the Mormon thing and baptize them after they die.
Let's retcon this thing. You're going to the good one.
Libby's, of course, upset about all this, mostly because, like we said, Andre knew this and did not tell her in advance. The conversation shifts to Libby's parents, and she says that she's concerned about how the two families might get along because, in her words, I know how outspoken they are. They don't hold back on their opinions, which, having seen plenty of the Pothouse family, that's their name, I can assure you she's undercutting how insane and nasty these people are. Libby takes the baby to go to sleep, and Andre returns to the family to discuss her family without her there, and he opens up about the group and does not hold back. He says that they are basically your stereotypical Americans. They are. They're loud. They're obnoxious. They are. Andre does not have a good relationship with them, especially her nasty, nasty sisters. Their family kind of laughs about this, and they're just kind of like, all right, whatever, we'll deal with them when they come. Our next transition scene involves checking in with Colt and Debbie. Debbie is seasoning some big-ass steaks and straight up drowning them in Laurie's seasoning salt when Colt says,
Hell yeah.
It's good, but too much.
It's too much.
You don't need
but
to season the steaks.
I'd really,
that much.
really quickly, we should talk about how Laurie's seasoning is really useful.
It is. That's why it's been around for so long
I
and
put
hasn't
that
changed.
shit on fries.
You put it on fries, any sort of
Yeah.
meat, chicken, beef. It's good stuff. What do you think, Spencer? You're a chef.
I'm
Do you know Laurie?
I'm not actually sure. Oh, yeah. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. When you say Lori, I was thinking of it like, I don't know, Lori. It's with a W, right?
Lawry's, yeah.
I always thought it was Lowry.
I don't know.
I think you could
wrong.
say that. I mean, you could call it anything you want. You call it Larry's.
Get Larry
Yeah,
on the
the
phone.
only time I think I ever had that was actually when me and your sister lived together, Brian, and we got it for the steaks.
Yeah, I put some of that shit on a steak.
Yeah, I
we
don't
just
think I've
sat there
ever
and
bought
ate
it for
Lawry's
myself.
seasoning salt. We didn't
Yeah,
have anything
we
else
did
with
You
it.
shots
probably
of it.
could.
That's pretty good.
It is good.
Colt says he has invited his friend Vanessa over and will be having dinner with her as a present for watching their pets, which gets immediately contradicted.
Yeah,
a little bit
seems
later
like
in
the
episode.
timeline's a bit off. If we had fucking Estes from Silk Stockings, he would have figured out this timeline was bullshit from the get-go.
Colt and Debbie, of course, when they go to Brazil, that's when she's going to be watching the pets. Colt mentions that he met Vanessa online and they become friends, but Jess does not like her despite having never met her. We get a flashback scene of, I believe, the previous season when Jess and Colt were out with some of Jess's friends, and she tells the friends that Vanessa is always calling him, and she says he claims that they met at the gym, which prompts one of her friends to completely skip over the other woman scenario here and say, since when does he go to the gym?
Fair point.
Colt says he lied to Jess. He just straight up says it and told her that he would no longer talk to Vanessa, but obviously, here we are. One of the show producers flat out asks Colt if he's ever been more than just friends with Vanessa, and he just gets this smug fucking look on his face.
yeah.
We had
It's so
sex.
matter-of-factly. He goes, yeah, I've had sex with her, but it was just the one time.
Yeah, I heaved my carcass upon her. What's
What
it
do
to you?
How does he say this? Because it should be like she doesn't reciprocate. She doesn't have my feelings, but he says like she didn't return the favor.
Yeah,
Which is
something
just
weird.
fucked up to be like, it was a favor that I was interested in her.
It was a favor that I let her have a piece of this meat.
He, of course, says that he had a crush on her, but he doesn't think she really likes him, so he's moved on.
As you
Yeah,
can do
right.
Sure.
when you're Colt, you have so many options.
Vanessa actually refers to Colt as her best friend at some point in this. What I want to discuss here is that all of these women that Colt have been with or is associated with are certainly flawed. Larissa's a psychopath. I don't remember a whole lot about Jess, but I know her jealousy is through the roof and she does some
Yeah.
nasty things.
Well, she doesn't seem all that bright either.
Mhm. Vanessa clearly doesn't mind essentially being the homewrecker of the group, sleeping with him when he's with other people.
Well, she was going through a divorce herself, as she says. He
Yeah.
got her through a tough time.
That's okay, then it's fine. I get it.
Broken people need broken people sometimes.
So basically, these people are all flawed. But all in all, they're a fairly physically attractive group,
Yeah,
right?
I would agree.
What the fuck are they doing with Colt? I don't get it. I
Colt's
do not
hot.
see this.
The
There's
hot
got to
man.
be some sort of magnetism he has other than his looks, personality, and personal history and family
And hygiene.
and actions
and just
that are
aura.
really something really attractive other than all the things that make up a person.
I do think this maybe is supposed to be the case of being sweet and suave or funny, how that's supposed to overcome serious physical limitations.
be just the
There's no
confidence.
personality there.
That's the thing, though. He's not sweet and suave.
He's confident in his
He's confident.
absence. He's probably like a sociopath or something, because there's not really any sort of... He seems to kind of just shift with the situation and say what he thinks people want to hear.
Yes.
Maybe we said he's a programmer. Maybe these are all AIs. He's made these girls and he's designed them to fall in love
Maybe
with them.
he's AI and he fucked up the physicality of the thing. You know, like he
They're
didn't
all
quite get it
robots.
right.
He does always also wear these like shitty plain T-shirts that don't fit well, his little boy shorts. So he doesn't dress well. He doesn't have a good personality. He's not very nice.
No.
He's clingy with his mother. I'll move on, but I don't get it. I just don't
get
see
it. And those shirts, you're right, they're always like nondescript. I feel like he goes and buys like the Fruit of the Loom 6-pack for ogres.
Oh,
And that's his outside clothes.
I'm not
outside
convinced
clothes.
that he shops for his own clothes. I think Debbie handles that.
You have
Yeah.
a really good point,
That is
Spencer.
good.
and that might be why they don't fit right. You know, maybe she's
Yeah.
still buying it like
my
he's in high
little
school or
boy, my
something.
little
exactly.
not enormous boy.
She buys him a sailor outfit.
That's a creepy dynamic.
My little
they have.
boy that
Oh, yeah.
breathes just fine.
What it could be, and I thought about this, is there's an episode of King of the Hill where Bobby is struggling to date a girl or something or other. So he goes to Boomhauer for advice. Now, Boomhauer's a player or whatever in this episode or in this show. And we find out that Boomhauer's method to
I think
getting
I've
a
seen,
woman.
This is the one King of the Hill episode I've seen ever.
Oh, really?
Where he just asks
Yeah,
over
it's
and
ask
over again.
everyone. So maybe that's it. Colt's just tossing out business cards, and
Maybe
eventually
so,
somebody
but
bites.
as you pointed out, Van, it's like if he's asking everyone, it's strange that he would always be
Getting the good.
getting
like,
reciprocated from reasonably attractive
Yeah.
women who also of different heritage than Colt, which I would assume that's a prerequisite for him.
He has a thing for non-white
I think
people.
he knows who to target that will go along with him. Like what his plan is. Like he spots somebody. People like that, especially manipulated people, can do that. Like they know who they can target. So he probably just
Which
has
we're
that
going to see
down.
a lot of on this show in particular, because one partner in each of these scenarios typically relies on the other to stay in the United States.
Yeah, they need something that they can't necessarily get from anyone
Yeah,
else.
the power dynamic is immediately messed up.
Mm-hmm. Now, once again, we get a friend of the American basically saying, guess what? Colt, you're moving way too quickly. This is a terrible idea. Jess says that to him. Colt gets super snobby and does that thing that these people always do is he says, you can't pick and choose when and where you fall in love.
Nobody understands love like Colt.
Vanessa and Debbie continue just grilling Colt on diving so hard in this relationship with Jess, and the conversation shifts to money, and then we find out that Colt has basically given her a whole fuckload of money already.
Thousands of dollars.
He bought her a plane ticket, makeup, clothes, all kinds of other
He's
stuff.
even smug about that.
Very smug. That's a point of
something
pride.
I
for
like
him.
to treat her. That's not treating
Yeah,
her.
and
That's bribes.
He made a point to be like, he'll give her $1,000 here and these other things. He's like, just a little bit or something like that.
He even says like it's not a lot of money. It's
Yeah.
like, that is a lot of
Again,
money.
attempting to act bigger than and more important than everyone else involved.
Ultimately, he says that the two pointing out how stupid it is for him to do this is annoying him. He knows what he's doing despite his recent history proving he has no clue what he's doing.
Yes.
Okay, now I've mentioned these scene transition songs multiple times. I think it's about time we heard from one. This one is called Cool New Kicks by, again, the Free to Use band.
Cool new kicks, hot pink lips, sipping coffee like she don't care. She don't wanna no. She is on the go.
Pretty cool, huh?
Pretty fucking rockin'.
I'm certain that they've also probably used that exact song a dozen times because they have like 4 of them.
Yeah, it's like Dress Barnes,
I
ZZ
wouldn't
Top.
notice because when I hear something like that, it goes straight to the part of my brain where it's not sinking in.
Tune
so
out, yeah.
I'm not gonna remember if they do.
Well, after this song, His Excellency Jabba Desalijik Tier of now Hutt, Eminence of Tatooine, has arrived at the gynecologist.
This has
for
to
his
be
annual
Angela.
checkup.
Because I have it, she's going to an OBGYN. That has to be Angela. Jabba does not even have a gynecologist.
We don't know that.
I don't understand where the disconnect here is
Did
coming
you watch
from.
the right episode?
I must have done the wrong
Did
thing.
you watch episode 7?
I must have. Let me go ahead and skip ahead in my notes. We'll see where we're at. Oh, here we go. Angela has
Yeah, that's
arrived.
okay. We're in the same place.
She's here at this gynecologist to undergo an endometrial biopsy, or as she says it, endometrio biopsy.
I bet this scene's really pleasant.
Oh, it's great. It's so sweet and caring, and you get to learn about the human body.
Mm-hmm. This is like how, like,
Human.
Like, if you're going to a show, you're seeing a few bands, there's a headliner.
This is the headliner right here. You see, the last time she went to the doctor saw something that could be cancerous. Angela reveals that cancer has run in the family, so it's important that she goes ahead and checks this out, particularly before her trip to Nigeria. The doctor reveals to Angela what is involved with the process and says it's not really a big deal. It's a tad uncomfortable, but it's not all that painful. An adult woman should be able to handle this problem. What the doctor did not count on, however, is that Angela Deem may look like one, but she is no adult woman. TLC, being TLC, decides to film this whole process, and the doctor says, all right, cough for me, and then you're going to feel some pressure. And I can't really do it justice, so I think we should probably go ahead and listen in to the endometrial biopsy
What a
that Angela
symphony.
undergoes.
When I say 3, I want you to give me a big cough. All right.
God,
Ready?
she's cutting me
1, 2, 3.
Ah!
Sorry.
Oh, God almighty.
You all right? You okay? Okay, just take it
Hell
out.
no, I'm not okay. Ah, God, get it out.
Okay.
That's it. That's enough.
Really? Okay.
Oh,
So that was fun.
Yeah. I feel like I had one of those too.
This is Duck Dynasty level bullshittery. Like when they do one of those talking heads and Uncle Si's like, red beans, velvet cheese. Like he's just listing stuff weird. Garth Brooks, Empire State Building. Do you know what I'm talking about? Grass.
It's like I'm watching the show all over again.
Exactly. This is just like that. They're like, yeah, just go to town, ham it up.
Angela asks the doctor, we're done, right? The doctor does her best to stifle a laugh because they accomplish literally nothing because of Angela's inability to be an adult. And the doctor says, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to give you some nitrous oxide, a.k.a. laughing gas. That'll calm you down. We can get this fucking over with. And the doctor speaks to the camera in a talking head segment. And I'm going to go ahead and let you hear what she has to say about it.
I've never used nitrous oxide for an endometrial biopsy. It's not usually necessary.
Kudos to her for trying to be as professional as possible.
How do you think she felt about being a talking head on this show?
Oh, man, some doctors, when you see them on the show, they've hired the firm, plastic surgery, whatever it may be, to like ham it up. She's like, okay, maybe this will be good for my business. But then at this point, it's why did I agree to do this? This is the worst decision I've ever
Why
made.
did I take this client in the first place?
And to be fair, in this situation, I would absolutely rather load Angela up with nitrous oxide than deal with her not on nitrous oxide.
Yeah, although this doesn't seem pleasant either.
No, not at all. Having given her the anesthetic, the doctor can finally get on with this procedure. And all the while, Angela's giggling like a fucking idiot and talking about doing the weed. And at one point, the doctor asks if Angela's okay, to which she responds, no, you're pinching my coochie. Like a classy lady. This will be the second time someone vomits on this show.
Oh, my God.
Once all of this is finally finished, the doctor reveals it could be one of 3 things. It could be benign, could be precancerous, or it could be cancer. This could obviously be a big deal, and the show is absolutely hamming it up for the drama. It'll be about a week before they can get the results back, and Angela's actually going to be in Nigeria by then, so the two agree to FaceTime each other with the results when they come in. Angela talks about how scary this is and says if it is cancer, there'll be no way I can have that baby, and says, what if I lose my way of toting the baby? And gentlemen, I'm going to tell you that is a bit of a callback joke, because in previous seasons on the show, when she found out the very low odds of actually having a baby at her age, that she would probably be better off getting an egg and having it fertilized within her, someone else's egg. So she approaches her daughter, Skyla, and asks, can I have an egg from you? And the actual quote, which is now plastered over mugs and tote bags and everything, is, I can tote it. I just need your egg.
Ew.
Yep.
Gross.
And she actually said that to her daughter.
That is awful.
Has she considered that not to?
Evidently not.
Too
at
late.
this juncture. No, she's already decided. Can't change my mind. I'm Angel Deem. The final segment of this godforsaken experiment we're undertaking involves Larissa, Colt's ex-wife, having to visit the USCIS, a.k.a. the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. She has received a letter from the department and fully believes she's about to be deported because she's still awaiting a green card and thinks that Colt and Debbie have sabotaged the process and she is in trouble. Larissa asks her friend Hannah to take her to the immigration department, and she tells Hannah how scary the situation is. The music swells up, showing that this is just such a terrifying situation. and that Hannah needs to be prepared to call Larissa's lawyer for her just in case things turn sour. This is a shock to Hannah because she thought this was just going to be you need to sign a paper kind of thing.
Yeah.
Larissa and TLC continue ramping up the drama here, leading us to
Which
believe
maybe
this
that
is it.
is what it is also, that she just needs to sign a paper?
Well, I'll tell you. This is the end of our episode. We don't actually find out about that, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you what it was.
This is it, 92 minutes in.
The next episode, she goes into the place, and I asked Katie about it, what actually happened, and Katie couldn't fully remember because it's nothing.
Yeah, that's
It's
what I
just
figured.
straight up everything's
Of course,
fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think even it's a good thing, like because of her physical assaults on Colt and being arrested and all that, they had some problem with her. They downgraded that. And it may be because coronavirus is starting to kick in right about now, but ultimately, this was good news for her.
I feel like if you're on a reality show, you know how to ratchet that drama up for no reason.
Yeah, it was for absolutely nothing, is what it's revealed. Our final little bit of the episode is one of those next time on 90 Day Fiancé things, and I will cover a little bit about what happens to the couples, or what we see from the couples we found today. Angela makes it to Nigeria to be with Michael, and we see the two enter their new apartment, only for Angela to see a bug or something and just completely lose her shit.
Maybe
screaming
she
and
stomps
stomping.
down the apartment.
She might have trampled it, which would really be appreciated by Paul,
Yeah.
who, as we noticed,
There we
loves
go.
to destroy houses.
It's his favorite thing.
Speaking of Paul, he's trying to show he can provide for Karine, so he meets with a realtor to find a place he can buy to give her a good home. The only problem is he doesn't have any money or a job, so the only place he can afford is a decrepit trailer, like a trailer park trailer full of garbage and holes in the floor. And Karine freaks the fuck out and says she'd rather go back to Brazil alone, and that Paul is not a good husband.
Shocker. I had in my notes here, Karine doesn't seem to want to live in a storage shed.
Shame on her. Kalani, next up, is having dinner with her family, and her dad, who's very Samoan, is asking about where Asuelu is, because he's not there, and getting increasingly agitated as he finds out more information about what has happened. Those two don't like each other.
I'm sure he thinks Asuelu's dead on.
He thinks he's just super smart, doing what's in the best interest for his family.
Real good-hearted.
Can't stand him because Asuelu's an idiot. There's actually a couple of scenes where at the birthday party, I remember this, Asuelu has come back by this point. He just hides in the bedroom and plays video games by himself.
Sounds about right.
Like the kid party's going on, the family, everybody's there.
Why does he need to be there?
To support his 2-year-old that has no idea what's happening, Brian. All right, I need to take a quick break, so let's do that, and then we'll come back and talk Andre and Libby. In Moldova, Andre is pulling his usual sexist bullshit, and he says the line, "In America, Libby, you listen. Over here, you listen double."
He's going to open for Yakov on his next tour.
Finally, Colt and Debbie arrive in Brazil and greet Jess, and Jess and Colt decide to just start violently making out in the car in front of Debbie. And Debbie's like, "Oh, God, this is disgusting."
Debbie
like,
probably likes it.
She might, but she sure acts like she doesn't, because it's disgusting. It's these two just plowing their faces into one another. And I've watched some of that. She's upset. Debbie's upset because they've been flying for like 14 hours. She hasn't slept, so she wants to go to the hotel and just like nap for a few hours. Colt and Jess won't let her. They pester the fuck out of her. They're just like, "What's wrong, Mom?" Colt thinks he's being sly about it.
Oh, yeah.
He's being a fucking asshole about it. It's so frustrating to watch.
Colt sucks.
And that will do it, ladies and gentlemen. This was our feature-length film version of 90 Day Fiancé.
So who's the villain, guys? Do we want to do that?
Yeah, let's do that. Why don't you lead us off here? Who is your ultimate villain from this episode?
Yeah, again, I don't think I'm necessarily correct about this, but I might be. But Colt is the person who just got on my nerves the most.
Okay.
So he's my villain for the episode. So smug about everything. And again, just gives off some sort of really doesn't care about other people's feelings vibe. But again, this is a buffet of horrible people.
Yes, yeah, it's almost impossible to pick. I would have to go with Angela because she's so grating.
I wanted to do that, but that's like saying who's a good band, the Beatles. No,
that's the low-hanging fruit right there.
I couldn't resist though because it's awful.
You just are correct, is the thing.
Also, ever since you mentioned the Angela stepping on bugs thing, now you're making me think of the OnlyFans person. The character from the last episode. And now I'm wondering about Courtney. So now I'm having a difficult time not thinking about Angela having an OnlyFans, and it's awful.
Oh,
just
boy.
stomping away on stuff.
Or worse, anything, whatever she wants to do in OnlyFans. I don't want to Don't want to be a part of that.
You're not going to pay the $50 for that one. You're not going to pay the 50 cents for that
You're not
one.
going to go to Only Ange.
Ugh. I would say my biggest villain for this episode is a Swelu. So we're going to have
That's
three
true.
different
That's a
ones.
good one.
And that's a really good one, too.
that
Again,
might be the correct
it's
answer.
so
They're all
hard
the
to
correct
say.
answer. Mhm. They're all awful, vile monsters. It's just, the show leaves me feeling dirty. Like I want to shower now after having talked about it for so long.
After
It's just
watching
disgusting.
it, too, it just felt gross.
Well, let's talk about the show as a whole and your experience watching it. And then after that, I'll give you the after the 90 days and tell you what happened to all these couples. Spencer, let's go to you first. What did you expect going in versus what you saw with 90 Day Fiancé?
I didn't know what to expect because, I mean, this is not the kind of show that I've ever paid any attention to. So I really didn't know. For all I knew, it was a perfectly standard formula for reality show, which you could argue it is. But usually, I don't think everyone sucks this much in most shows. And they were seriously, is that the purpose? Is it known for that? Is that what the people who watch it think too?
I think early on the show was definitely
I thought it'd be a feel-good thing.
Well, it was closer to that. That was the point. It was like, we want to see people who are trying to find love. But over time, it evolved into a train wreck show.
Yeah, this is
and that's what
total
it is.
car crash, Jerry
Can't turn
Springer,
away.
Maury
Gotcha.
shit.
Okay, so that's what they're going for then.
I think at this point, certainly.
Now, how many years are they into this whole thing? Like since it first started? Like
2014.
I noticed that there was, I think the first one that we covered was like 2017 or something, 2017.
And there are several spinoffs.
And these
two
are both
of which we
spin-offs,
watched.
Yes. There's the original show, 90 Day Fiancé. There was Before the 90 Days, Happily Ever After. There's this thing they do called Pillow Talk, which disgusts me than anyone watching. What it is they show the show you just watched, and a different couple comments on a couple they're watching.
Wow.
So Paul and Karine might talk about Angel.
Here's what I think. I think if heaven and hell existed, that would be on a loop in hell.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's the first time anyone's ever actually been able to describe hell in a way that's legitimately scary to me. Like usually hell doesn't, like, it's not that troubling. It's like, whatever. I'm immortal. Whatever it is, I'm immortal. So you can't really do that much to me. Now I realize that you can.
We learned today Spencer's pro hell until this moment.
Maybe I can't die, which is generally your biggest fear. But if I have to watch that,
I would take the sweet release of death, certainly.
Yeah, so I don't know how to answer that because I certainly didn't expect it to be good, but I come away very lost and confused and not really sure what that product is supposed to be.
And by the way, there's one other, maybe not spinoff, at the end of each season, and I think it's of every show, it might just be the regular 90 Day Fiancé show, they do what's called the tell-all. And what that is they get a big studio room, they put in a whole bunch of chairs, and they have everybody on the show come in and yell at one another.
Wow.
And Katie can't even watch that shit. Like, they're that bad. And Angela, in particular, that's very Jerry Springer-like because she's flashed her breasts.
I'm sure she thinks she's got to be star of the show.
Because she's always wanted to be on the reality shows. She probably wanted to be on Springer, so she uses every
I can't
opportunity
believe
to
she
act like
didn't
that.
succeed.
She was on Maury twice, but that was that. Brian, what do you think?
Much like Spencer, I really didn't know what to expect. I guess I guess this is the worst thing I've ever watched.
Which is hard to...
I mean, I don't know if that's actually true.
It probably is.
It is.
I just feel like it's so devoid.
I didn't think we could outdo Duck Dynasty when it came to unwatchable reality shows.
Well, okay, on a scale, this is hard to do because it's hard to put Duck Dynasty on a scale and then follow it up with 90 Day Fiancé.
And Duck Dynasty, don't get me wrong, that's
terrible.
Abhorrent in this other way too because it propagates views I find harmful to society.
Mm-hmm.
But this also sort of does.
I was gonna say,
like and sort of like, look, these are also reprehensible people, but I don't necessarily know that like giving them a little stage to pants themselves on is great. I don't know. Like you said, Van, there's no better way to put it than just this feels gross to watch and to be a part of.
You're in the canon as having been a part of the 90 Day Fiancé thing because of this show.
Yeah, I don't know what to say because it is a chore to get through and it is messy and it feels sort of exploitative.
Well, apart from the plea that you gave in the first one, Van,
that I will be repeating shortly. I want to make sure people hear it.
Is there anything else that you guys would want to say to somebody who watches it? Now, obviously, you have that opportunity with Katie, but someone who presumably is of normal intelligence and is a perfectly enjoyable person. Is there anything you would like want to say or ask?
Well,
such
we're
a
going to
person?
actually do so because we're going to work out a time to talk to Mandy Vaughn.
Yeah, we will
Amanda
have
K. Johnson, Brian's sister.
Yeah, we will have a brief interview.
And we're going to ask her, why do you watch? Why do you do this? We'll have plenty of questions for her.
Get some opinions, that sort of thing.
Because that's ultimately my thing. Katie talks about it because she's like, it is a train wreck. I like watching the train wreck. She likes that. I don't.
Yeah,
I
would assume that'll
beyond
be
me.
Mandy's answer as
Right.
well.
But I don't get it because if I found out, and look, I'm not necessarily even calling out Katie or Mandy, but I just don't get it. If I found out TLC is giving Angela Deem, who has a daughter who molested children, and Angela was an accessory to that, or if I find out Big Ed, who's a character we didn't discuss, is a physically abusive guy who has rape allegations in his past, if I found out these people were given a platform because of TLC, I would not watch TLC. I would stop doing that. I would back away. I don't get why this is so amazing that even knowing that, it's like, I have to tune in. I've got to see
That's one of
this.
the things I've never understood about reality TV is about as popular as anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never quite understood why there's so much out there.
I understand why there's so much out there because it's cheap to produce. I don't understand why it's been so successful that they continue.
That's kind of what I'm
producing
saying is though, like, why is it so appealing to viewers with more than ever available for free or very cheap on streaming services?
That's a good point. You can watch plenty of good shows like Renegade, like Columbo. You can watch them on Tubi for free. Check out Tubi.
Yeah, Tubi rules. Just go on Tubi and pick anything.
Not this.
Go on there, and I'm pretty sure you can watch Doll Man or Trancers on Tubi.
Better use of your time than watching 600 hours of 90 Day Fiancé. I don't have a whole lot to add to that other than this just sucks. It's just, I don't get it. I don't see it. I will never get it. And I'm glad when I've been real busy or I almost die and I have an excuse not to watch it when Katie watches it. I've missed so much of the most recent stuff, and that's so good. I just don't have to think about it anymore.
It probably contributed to your health issues.
It certainly did. I would say it's the primary attribute. Nothing I did. I'm going to pull a Colt here. Colt here. It's nothing I did. It's that. I'm going to sue 90 Day Fiancé. Someone should.
I like the idea too of that being like maybe something that does happen, and perhaps like an ER doctor might say that. Have you been consuming a lot of salt? Have you been consuming a lot of 90 Day Fiancé?
Were they the Angela episodes?
Or it's one of those commercials. Have you been watching 90 Day Fiancé and come down with an extreme bout of terribleness? Then contact me at 1-800-LAWYER-FART. I'll help you earn the settlement you deserve. All right, let's get into the after the 90 days.
Yeah,
here.
let's see what happened to these people.
I'll tell you what I know up to today, up to this date as of recording. We're going to start with Angela and Michael. After finally wedding in Nigeria, Michael's K-1 visa was denied, so he was unable to come to the U.S. This caused, of course, plenty of problems, but everything was exacerbated by Angela being a total fucking monster.
Mm-hmm.
She would scream about him not being allowed to talk to women, which he didn't even really do. It was pretty clear that Michael was like, this is my chance to get to the U.S. Why would I screw it up?
Yeah.
But Angela kept being like, where are you at? When I called you last night, you didn't answer for 10 minutes. Were you banging some lady? Like crazy shit. Crazy shit. Of course, all the while this is happening, she's flirting with every man she meets. She undergoes a whole bunch of plastic surgery on this show, weight loss surgery and breast reduction and that sort of stuff that she probably needed.
Get a third one put on.
She flirts with everyone. She flirted with the plastic surgeon like hardcore. And actually, they went to some gala together. I don't think he really was like, yeah, I'm going to get Angela. I think it was I could get some promotion out of this kind of thing. But she acts like it was a little more than that. She did promise to give Michael a baby, but never actually followed through with it, even though she
could have found
couldn't.
one somewhere.
And she's just overall absolutely nasty to him. Thanks to her success on the show, she's of course had that weight loss surgery, tons of other plastic surgery. She is manipulative. She is cruel. At one point on the show, she tried to pay some cell phone repair guy to track Michael's cell phone.
Wow.
She's like, no, just track it so I can watch where he's going at all times. And the guy who is dumbfounded at all of this is like, I can't do that. That's a terrible thing to do. And she threw a fit.
There's people with cameras also.
She basically just does whatever she wants. She's disgusting. She's got a huge, massive ego now because of this. And it's just disgusting. Moving on to Colt and Jess and Larissa and Vanessa.
Oh, good.
Colt discussed getting engaged with Jess, but before it could happen, he ended up cheating on her with Vanessa.
Oh.
Surprise.
At least openly. Like they
Yeah.
admitted they had done it at least once. She found out all of the various dick pics that he was sending out to women. That's, of course, Jess, because he was just shooting them out. Whoever came by.
Vomit.
Yeah. Eventually, Colt and Vanessa did get married to one another. They just thought, we are a match made in heaven. Let's do this. Jess found another doofus, basically, in the U.S. to marry, and she has since made her way here, working as a nanny in Chicago. And she's been on the show a couple times, basically to yell at Colt.
So she just shows up here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Do he and Vanessa remain regulars?
Yes, for a while. And actually, now Debbie is on The Single Life, whatever their spinoff is. So she's the focus. She talked about having sex one episode.
Oh, gross.
And apparently, this is great. Katie told me this. Apparently, she told a story that one time when doing it with a guy, he just straight up told her to shut up because she wouldn't stop talking, which is really funny to me.
What was she saying?
No, she's probably on the
daily
phone with
stuff.
Colt.
Or that, yeah.
Colt, he can't find it like you can.
As I hinted earlier,
Fuck this show.
you've grossed yourself out too much. As I hinted earlier, Larissa has since undergone at least 45 plastic surgeries. She had mostly worked as a sex worker, selling pics on OnlyFans, although recently she did announce she's leaving the adult industry to become a violent lunatic full-time.
Oh, okay.
Half of that's true. She is apparently leaving. She wants to be a lawyer. Good for her. Go for it. She's got the money now.
I'm sure she's totally capable.
Yeah,
She's
that's the
combative.
problem.
She can handle that part.
She could bite other lawyers. It's perfect. Asuelu and Kalani, these two are still together.
I'm certain they are.
I don't have a whole lot to add here, actually. They have been on 90 Day Fiancé and its spinoffs a lot, multiple times. The story's always the same. Asuelu's an idiot. He's a baby. He wants a traditional Samoan life. He's like, we should go to Samoa where we have farm for ourselves. And she's like, no, I don't want to live poor in Samoa. We live well enough here. And he just continues just fighting.
I'm surprised that they are so recurring because I found them very boring.
Yeah, there's not a lot there.
They kind of introduce Kalani's sister, who is real bad, basically an attention seeker, and she stirs up trouble.
That's shocking. I thought you were going to say a really good, well-intentioned person.
I didn't. Next up, Paul and Karine. All right, we've got a little bit to go over here.
Okay, this probably goes great.
Yeah, just wonderfully. These two waffle back and forth between separated and together.
I thought you were going to say something like, these two waffle heads.
I can say that. It fits. They have since had several children together. I believe 2 in total.
Oh, no.
The two are actually banned from the 90 Day show and its spinoffs, although reasons for the ban do vary. Some people say it's because they were saying very bad things about the production of the show, as well as bad things about TLC, and TLC, you can't do that. But other people say that there are domestic violence issues arising in their past, and I know the cops have been called plenty of times, so that's probably a little bit of truth there. I don't necessarily buy the last one because the network doesn't give two shits about domestic violence.
No, I wouldn't imagine.
With the people they're still showing on there, so I don't really think that'd be a reason unless they wanted to just use it as the reason to get rid of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The reason that these two keep popping back up in the news is because of their very graphic OnlyFans account.
Man, everyone has an OnlyFans in
I'm
this show.
going to read you a very recent description. I read this maybe a week or two ago that Karine has posted on their OnlyFans page.
Oh, I thought this was going to be a review.
No. This is her saying what you're about to witness.
Okay.
For $50. If you pay $50 on OnlyFans to Karine and Paul, you can watch the following video. Me with 2 dicks. I play with 2 squirting strap-ons and vibrator. BBC black toy I fuck and suck, and a smaller white one. I drop milk uncontrollably when I orgasm.
Wow.
I am alone in these videos. No Paul.
That last part sounds good.
Sounds great.
Did, I wonder if they ever got a house.
I presume they have because they've done semi-well on OnlyFans for some reason. Apparently, by the way, this is the rumor, Paul has an enormous dick.
Huh.
Good for him, I guess.
Well, is this
He
like,
is an enormous dick.
Yeah, like relative or just does?
Supposedly, it's just colossal.
I guess you just never know. You know, people act like there's a way to know. There's no way to know.
You don't know.
Except for the really obvious ones.
Yeah, if you're like
if you're struggling to walk down the road because it's banging in your inner thigh, sure, I get it.
If you're constantly buying bungee cords and be like, oh, I need to strap this to my leg to walk down the street.
Lastly here, we have Libby and Andre. I fucking hate these two. I just hate them so much. In the years since this episode came out, we've seen more and more of the family pothouse, and every single time they show up on screen, I get more and more disgusted because they do something new and stupid. I'll try to be brief here, but essentially Chuck, who is Libby's dad, owns a, air quotes, successful real estate business in Florida, and one plotline saw Andre trying to weasel his way into the family business. Libby's family did not like this because they believe he hasn't put in the work and he just wants to profit off of their, air quotes, hard work that they've done. In fact, in one part of the storyline, Andre gets it in his head that he could start his own real estate business or house flipping business. And he just basically demands that Chuck, again, Libby said, give him $100,000, get it started. He gets so mad when Chuck's like, we're not going to do that. He is literally in this episode like, well, what's the big deal? Chuck, give me $100,000. I'm an American businessman. Chuck, why Chuck, you no give me $100,000? That's in fact what I do anytime I see him. When I'm talking to Katie, I'll be like, Katie, where's my $100,000? As American businessman, I earn $100,000. The dad, Chuck, is absolutely enamored with Andre. He wouldn't give him the $100,000, but he's like, well, he's part of the family now, so we're going to bring him into the business and we're going to show him the ropes, and maybe later we'll give him his $100,000. There's also fights between Libby's brothers and sisters with Andre, in particular her brother Charlie, who has a raging coke habit, which is real, and he has been arrested for DUIs multiple times. The whole family are essentially pretentious alcoholics, and the sisters, including Libby, have been on the show trying to show off their fashion status. They often look like vapid monster chickens. Like, there's one episode where the sister's wearing like sequin vest and like a sun hat, and it's at their house at night.
The sort of thing
jarring.
if Bobby Six Killers got it on in Renegade, sure.
Yes, but this, it's clearly them trying to be, as Katie said, what did she say? Swamp Kardashians.
Alabama Runway.
All of the sisters and brothers, by extent, have posted stuff on OnlyFans trying to capitalize on their fame and make a quick buck. The girls all seem to think that they're just super hot and again, fashion icons. No one believes this. No one out there is like, oh man, these girls are so cool. But they just keep at it. It's amazing. Their dedication is actually admirable.
Yeah.
How convinced they are.
They love the
at being
craft.
good. Each member of the family also have mugshots plastered all over the internet because of their alcoholism, rampant drug use, and domestic violence, all of this in their history. And when the coronavirus pandemic hit, there was a lot of evidence showing that Chuck, the dad, took out a bunch of PPP loans, which are offered to businesses, and likely just shared them with his family. Didn't share them with his employees because his family are his employees. I could not find anything definitive on this. This has been in, I guess, the rumor mill, but the timeline fits. They all pretend to be fabulously rich despite being what I would call like Floridian wealthy. Like, he's got a business that has worked, but I'm sure he's also in deep debt from, it's buying the lumber from this group or whatever.
Gator stuff, too.
And Gator stuff. Sometimes they come into the house and they eat one of the daughters. No one minds. There may be individuals I despise more from the show, but as a whole, you cannot find a more villainous group of people than the Pothouse family. And they're basically trying for their own spinoff. That's the whole point.
Oh, no.
They're umping up
I'm sure
the
they'll get
craziness.
it.
Yeah.
And Andre, by the way, he's like physically, I guess, in shape. But what it is it's lift weights shape, because when he takes off his shirt, he has a gut. He has a straight up gut and then muscles. It's like he's never walked anywhere in his life.
The Moldovan keg.
It absolutely is. All right. So that's it. Anything else before we get out of here, gentlemen?
No.
Good riddance to that, I think. I think we would all agree.
Yeah.
Good riddance to bad rubbish, right?
Sure.
So that's it. We need to toss it to Brian for the very final thing we're going to do today, which is reveal what we're going to be covering.
Which,
next
this is a very fortunate position for you to be in. You are a hero automatically, no matter what you pick right now, because you're giving us something else to watch.
Yeah.
Unless you're like more 90 Day Fiancé.
In which case, I'm not sure I'll do any more. Bootu
in which
boys.
case, I am the answer to who is the villain. No, I wanted to find a way to push us into some new terrain, into a type of show we have yet to cover. Without further ado, I'll reveal that we're going to need Paramount Plus to watch this bad boy, and I'll just read to you guys a little bit about the show. I'm honored to get to announce a show where no one knows what it is. It's actually been a couple months where the three of us have had the surprise reveal.
That's true, yeah.
Because we did Seinfeld and we were picking shows, so it was kind of for each other. So anyway, I decided to go with a game show, guys. We have not done a game show.
That is interesting, yeah.
6 teams compete through a series of physical and mental challenges as it narrows down to only one team, given the privilege to enter a mysterious Mayan temple in order to retrieve an artifact from a well-known figure in a limited amount of time. We'll be watching the Nickelodeon game show from 1993 to 1995, Legends of the Hidden Temple. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Okay, that'll be fun.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
I did not watch that.
You didn't? I did. Brian and I both
Yeah,
did,
I
for
have
sure.
vague childhood memories of it, and I hope they hold up.
Purple parrots, silver anacondas.
Blue barracudas, things like that.
Cool stuff.
The episodes we're going to be covering are Season 2, Episode 14, The Stone Head of the Evil King.
Man,
Uh-huh.
that's scary.
And Season 3, Episode 29, The Mystical Spell Book of the Imperial Wizard.
Uh-huh. Gee, I wonder why you picked that one,
So
Brian.
this will be what we're talking about next week, and there will be no Angela.
I got to tell you, though,
Unless she's the Imperial Wizard.
this is going to be a breath of fresh air.
Ugh,
Like,
should
that'll
be
be
some
so much
lighthearted
fun.
fun, right, guys?
Absolutely.
That is very exciting.
You know
yeah.
how long these episodes are? 22 minutes.
Oh, what a glorious thing.
I'm
you have
going to
just
go
said.
home and watch them right now.
Yeah. We're all in a lot better mood now, right?
Yeah, that's exciting.
It's going to be a positive experience from here on out.
I
because
can't wait to
no
see
more
these
90
stupid mid-90s kids,
Oh,
which I was
yeah.
one, so I can say that. I'm
And
sure
some
they
of them are
all
probably
look
gonna
very
get
dumb.
killed by spears inside a temple, but that's beside the point.
You know what I can tell you? No one wins. No one ever wins at that show.
No,
ever.
no. It's-
Everyone loses.
And it's a lot like watching 90 Day Fiancé in
no
that
one
way.
wins. So I have final thoughts here. And if you
Okay.
listen to our first episode on 90 Day Fiancé, these may sound a little familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Please stop watching this shit. You're encouraging these people to keep doing this. You're encouraging TLC to give a platform to domestic abusers. You are encouraging TLC to further push the mental issues that people like Darcy and Stacy and everyone else on this show have. TLC is the true villain of all of this, and I beg you, stop watching this shit. I understand I'm profiting off this by covering it, but I just want to use the platform to hopefully make up for that to say, stop it. Stop it.
You
Cut
know
it
what?
out.
You persuaded
And
me.
he's not really profiting off
I'm not
this.
gonna watch
I mean,
anymore.
It's very narrow.
So cancel your Discovery Plus logins. Stop buying products that they advertise.
Give
on the
us
show.
that money on Patreon.
Just send it to us.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/Bootu Inc.
Yes.
Where for just $2 a month or more, you will get access to all sorts of bonus content that is not 90 Day Fiancé.
Hell yeah, we're talking about Dune. We're taking quizzes my sister wrote about shows we've watched.
All sorts of fun stuff there. And of course, you can find us on Twitter. I'm at Manly Van Lee. The show is at Bootu Boys. And Spencer is.
I am at the number 3 French_hen.
I'm at Loud Guitar Brian. That's me, Brian.
And you can also find us at bootuboys.com.
Mm-hmm.
Cool stuff on
You
there.
sure can.
And Instagram, TikTok, all that
Whatever.
stuff. I really want the
Just
TikTok
go to-
tab.
go to
I've
all of
taken
it.
over your role of being
started-
like YouTube, but it's TikTok.
Last time you did that, I was seriously wondering if maybe I missed that we had a TikTok now. I was like, maybe I didn't. I'm not up to date.
Brian's
on
an
social
influencer.
networking.
You
So
can
he
find
started
us on the menu at Schlotsky's.
Delicious. What if we all had a sandwich named after
That would be
ourselves?
awesome.
That would be
pretty
great.
cool. All right, well, that's going to do it for everyone. I hope you're excited to hear Legends of the Hidden Temple next week. We'll be back with really cool episodes on that, as well as bonus content again on patreon.com/Bootu Inc. So for Spencer Brian, I'm Van, and it's time to just stop talking.